Chapter 1: New Beginnings. I had never felt so much pain in my life. My right hand trembled uncontrollably, and blood soaked my pristine white shirt. It was a Monday morning, and the only thought filling my head was that this was not a day I was meant to die. As I lay motionless in my car, I was struck by the silence of the scene. No one in the truck that had just collided with me was stirring. Spectators crowded around, looking terrified, and traffic was almost completely blocked. All I could hear was the rustling of leaves in the trees along the road. Two bystanders rushed over, telling me that help was on its way and that I shouldn't move. One of them took my hand and began to pray, "Lord, please help this man, please protect him." Minutes later, a convoy of ambulances, fire trucks, and police cruisers swarmed the accident scene, sirens blaring. Everything seemed to slow down, and a strange sense of peace washed over me as the rescuers methodically began their work, clearly demonstrating their urgent professionalism. I felt like a witness, as if I were standing high above, watching everything unfold. The next thing I remembered was waking up in a hospital room that smelled of fresh lemon and bleach. I'll never forget that smell. My body was wrapped in layers of bandages, and both my legs were in splints. My arms were covered in bruises. A young, beautiful nurse greeted me. "Mr. Valentine, I can't believe you're awake. Let me get the doctor," she said, hastily pressing the intercom next to my bed. When she finished the call, I groaned, "Please call me Jack." I tried to sound normal despite what I knew was a very serious situation. "Where am I?" "You're at Lakeview General Hospital, Mr. Jack. This is the intensive care unit. You were in an accident last week. To be honest, you're very lucky to be alive." "Me?" I asked sheepishly. The nurse responded with a reluctant smile, her eyes glancing at the monitors at the foot of my bed. "You were in a coma after being hit by an open-top truck. The paramedics who brought you here didn't think you'd survive the crash. But never mind that, the only thing you need to worry about now is recovering from your terrible injuries and broken legs. You'll be fine. I told you, you're an extremely lucky man." Lucky wasn't a word I'd ever associated with myself, but in this situation, I could understand what she meant. I was indeed very fortunate to be alive. Why am I alone in this room? I wondered, looking around. I wouldn't mind having someone else here. "You've only been awake for a few minutes, Jack. Please rest and take some time to breathe. Stay still. Your doctor will be here soon. He was very worried about you." As the day progressed and a stream of doctors and nurses appeared, examining and encouraging me, I began to fully comprehend the severity of my accident. The truck driver had died instantly, and my doctor frankly informed me that he hadn't expected me to regain consciousness. "I've never seen a case like this," he said, genuinely. But immediately, a thought popped into my head. This happened for a reason. Everything happens for a reason, and there are no accidents in life. I know you've heard this before, but I personally came to understand that our miraculous universe is not only incredibly intelligent in its workings, but also a very friendly place. This world wants us to have extraordinary lives. It wants us to be happy, and it wants us to win. A quiet inner voice emerged for the first time in that hospital room, but it would continue to comfort me in my most difficult and vulnerable moments. It told me that something monumental was about to happen, and that what I would experience in the coming days and weeks would not only change my life, but also impact the lives of many others. It told me that my best was yet to come. I suppose many of us don't hear this quiet but wise inner voice. Deep within each of our hearts is a place that knows all the answers to our biggest questions. Each of us knows our truth and what needs to be done to create an extraordinary life for ourselves. Most of us lose touch with this naturally pure source of wisdom because there's too much noise and hustle occupying our daily lives. But I found that when I had moments of silence, stillness, and solitude, the voice of truth began to speak, and the more I trusted its guidance, the richer my life became. That night around 9:30, an orderly wheeled another patient into my room. I was glad for the company and immediately perked up to get a look at my new roommate. He was an old man, perhaps about 75 years old. He had a thick head of stylish, slicked-back white hair. His face was dotted with brown spots, probably the result of many years spent under the sun. From his frail appearance and labored breathing, I guessed he was very ill. I also noticed he was in some pain. His eyes were always closed, and he moaned softly as the orderly transferred him to the bed. After about 10 minutes, my visitor slowly opened his eyes. I was mesmerized. His deep blue eyes radiated an intensity and brilliance that sent shivers down my spine. I immediately felt that the man before me possessed a depth of wisdom rarely found in this difficult and hurried world. I felt as though I was in the presence of a master. "Hello, young man," he said softly, with a refined demeanor. "It seems we'll be sharing this space for a while." "Yes, sir, not the most exciting place for a Friday night, is it?" I replied with a warm smile. "My name is Jack," I said, raising my hand in a gesture of greeting. "Jack Valentine. I was in a car accident last week, and it looks like I'll be in this bed for a while. I've been quite lonely all day, so I'm glad to meet you." "I'm pleased to meet you too, Jack. I am Caleb. I've been in various wards of this hospital for 7 months now. I've been examined, treated, and monitored more than I could ever imagine. I dread the way things are going for me. I'll never get out of here," he said softly, his eyes gazing up at the ceiling. He paused for a moment. "I came in here for stomach pains, a condition I thought was from eating something bad. 6 days later, they put me on chemotherapy." "Cancer?" I asked, trying to be as sensitive as possible. "Yes. When the doctors found it, they saw that it had spread throughout my body, into my lungs, my intestines, and now even up to my head," he said, trembling as he ran his right hand through his hair. "But anyway," he continued contemplatively, "I've lived a pretty decent life by most accounts. I grew up in poverty, raised only by my mother. She was a noble woman." "My mother was too," I interjected. "I think of her every day," Caleb replied. "She was sensitive, passionate, and strong as newly forged steel. She believed in me more than anyone I'd ever met and encouraged me to set big goals, to dream great dreams. Her love for me was truly unconditional, and that's the only true love there is. It reminds me of what Victor Hugo once wrote. The supreme happiness of life is the conviction that we are loved. And, young man, I truly felt loved by that extraordinary woman. You don't mind if I share my story with you, do you?" "Not at all," I replied. "To be honest, I'm very curious." "Excellent. My childhood was simple but happy. Summers were spent swimming naked in puddles, and winters were spent by a roaring fireplace, telling stories and reading books. My mother taught me to love books." "I love books too," I chimed in. "I didn't really like school much, but I loved books." "Me too. As the great philosopher Judah Ben Tibbon wisely remarked, make your books your companions, let your bookshelves be your playgrounds and your pleasure gardens." Such wonderful words, Mr. Caleb. He continued, "School bored me, but I found inspiration in books. I'll never forget my mother saying that an idea read in a book had the power to change my life. In truth, she taught that we don't know which book contains the idea that will lead us to awakening. My task, she would often tell me lovingly, was to continuously seek that book. Once I found it, I would need the courage to act on that idea to bring results into my life." Jack, since you also enjoy reading, I'll share another quote with you about the power of reading. To buy a lot of books that we can't read is nothing more than the soul advancing towards infinity. And this passion is the only thing that lifts us above the beasts that will perish. That quote is by A. Edward Newton. "We studied him in high school," Caleb said as he shifted in his bed. "Then, as I got a little older, I went to a military academy for further training and education. My mother never wanted me to leave home, but I received a scholarship, and it truly was my ticket out of poverty. Afterwards, I went to college, and there, on my very first day, I fell in love with an 18-year-old girl with blonde hair and fair skin. I met her in history class, and it was truly love at first sight. I just knew we were meant to be. My God, I loved Grace. She was so pure and kind. I couldn't imagine a more wonderful person to spend my life with." "My mother's name was Grace too," I recalled. "It's a beautiful name, isn't it?" "Yes. After Grace and I married, we had a child. It was a boy. I loved him dearly. It was a very special time for us. We had joy, laughter, loved the best things in life. During that time, I also decided to try my hand at business, starting a company that supplied lumber to many large contractors. It was a time of economic prosperity and a construction boom. For many years, I made tons of money, millions of dollars, truly. And the life that Grace, our son, and I began to have was truly like something out of a dream story, I must say," Caleb said, shaking his head as if he couldn't quite believe it himself. "But as I made money, I became more engrossed in my work. I grew increasingly distracted and paid less attention to my family. People say that as we go through life, we have to juggle countless different balls. Some balls, like the career ball, are made of rubber. If we drop them, they're likely to bounce back. But some balls are made of glass. Family is like that. If we drop that ball, it doesn't come back. That was the mistake I made. Money complicated everything and led me astray. I lost my ability to see my deepest values and true priorities. I grew further and further apart from my family instead of closer. The richest person in the world, I discovered, is not the one who has the most, but the one who needs the least. It took me a long time to learn that lesson. And, young man, I paid a very high price for it. I listened intently, captivated by the story of this man who was sharing his life experiences so frankly. I also grew up without a father, so I was keen to hear Caleb's perspectives on the importance of a strong family life. I longed for a connection with the father I never knew, and I felt that my life lacked a huge piece due to this incompleteness. I also felt a fleeting sadness due to the fact that, although I was quite a young man, I had not yet met a woman I felt I could share my life with and start a family. This was a desire I hadn't realized before. But anyway, Caleb continued, his enthusiasm flowing, difficult times always come with business, and I was broke. I'm not saying I lost some money and some assets. No, I'm telling you we lost everything in a matter of weeks. Grace was distraught and constantly worried about our predicament, but we were strong people, and together we found a way to rebuild. The business scaled down significantly. Grace and I also lived a simpler life. This was also a time for us to reflect on everything that had happened. Failure often helps us awaken and return to our true selves. Therefore, even when we weren't financially comfortable and our relationship still faced challenges, I grew a great deal as a person. In fact, that dire situation helped me embark on a path of self-discovery and personal growth that I'm still on today. It completely changed my life. So what happened next, Mr. Caleb? I asked with genuine interest, not caring that it was very late and the hospital lights were dimmed. I became a philosopher. A very straightforward answer resonated. A philosopher? What about your work? And what about Grace and your son? Philosophy simply means the love of wisdom. What I'm telling you, Jack, is that I fell in love with wisdom as much as I loved life itself. I spent my days pondering the meaning of life and reflecting on its profound questions. The things that had previously consumed so much of my time began to seem insignificant. Sadly, the distance between Grace and me grew, and eventually, we separated. Some people believe that relationships come to us as assignments. Some relationships last a few weeks, some a lifetime, but all of them appear to teach us great lessons that promote our growth as human beings. All I know is that I learned a lot from our time together. But unfortunately, she took our son with her, and I never saw either of them again. That broke me, Caleb recounted, his voice trembling. A part of me died when that happened. I still can't forgive myself for what I did to shatter my family life. And God, how I missed my son. Last I heard, Grace moved to another region and struggled to raise our son with the limited resources she had. I tried to stay in touch with her and ease her difficulties. But I knew her heart was broken, and she was very proud. She wanted nothing to do with me. This was truly the biggest mistake of my life, losing my family. My wife and son brought me moments of immense happiness, things I didn't see until it was too late. But our biggest mistakes also bring our biggest lessons. I am wiser now. I suppose the real trick in life is to make predictions from past hindsight to see the inner nature of things. That's beautifully said, Mr. Caleb. What I understand from what you're saying is that in life, it's essential to let our past serve us. Is that right? Exactly, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes. That's how people grow. We are born to make mistakes because mistakes bring growth. We just shouldn't repeat the same mistakes. Turn a wound into wisdom, or as you said, let the past serve us. Anyway, after Grace and our son left, I in turn delved deeper into myself. I shut myself off from the world for many years and actively engaged in self-assessment and self-questioning. My passion was to pursue the discovery of who I was as a person and why my life had unfolded as it did. In a world where most people live on the outside, I lived on the inside. In a world where people flee their fears, I ran towards them, and what I saw in the deepest parts of myself was extraordinary. Can you share what you saw in yourself? I asked eagerly, hanging on his every word. I'll let you find that for yourself, my son, he replied, which only intensified my burning curiosity. You know, we all have to do our own inner work. That is our highest responsibility. The central purpose of life is to assess oneself and understand one's true self, one's true being, and one's whole person. To know more about oneself so that one can do more for the world is the ultimate journey. True success in life is an inner work, you know. I completely understand, sir. What I discovered is that the most precious treasures a person will find are the treasures hidden deep within their heart. The greatest gifts of life are inner gifts, only revealed to those who have the courage to look beyond the surface of their lives. I took a moment to think about what he said. That's unfortunate, Mr. Caleb. I've never been much for self-improvement. I work for an advertising company, so I'm in the corporate world all day. It's all about making money and looking good. I'm not very proud of the way my world operates. But I learned to play the game, and I play it pretty well. I have a fancy car, or at least I used to. I have a cozy apartment and decent friends. But at the end of each day, I still don't feel happy. Something is missing. I really understand what you're saying about success being an inner work. If I felt good about myself, I know I'd feel much better about my life. So, where can I begin this inner work, as you call it? You can start by connecting with your death, Jack. Thinking about death is a very powerful affirmation of life, you understand. Really? Absolutely. Only when we connect deeply and emotionally with the reality that our lives are very short and our time is very limited can we truly live fully and make every moment count. If you only had 1 year left to live, I bet you'd live very differently than you do now. You'd be determined to live without regret. You'd seize every opportunity. You'd risk opening your heart to love. And you'd live with all passion, enjoyment, and focus on what truly matters. Focus on what truly matters. What do you mean? I asked. Caleb slowly sat up and reached for a pencil lying on the table beside him. Live like this pencil, and you will have a good life, he said with great confidence. Too many of us live like unsharpened pencils. We need to sharpen our focus and live to our fullest, just like a finely sharpened pencil. This is how you design and then build an extraordinary life experience for yourself. The writer Mitchell de Montaigne said this. The greatest and most glorious masterpiece of mankind is to live to the full. All other things are merely props and insignificant embellishments. You see, Jack, most of us live as if we have all the time in the world. We deny our passions and we postpone our dreams. But life is truly a fragile gift, and it demands that we live right now. Neither of us knows how many more tomorrows we have. Please trust me on this point. I will, I said sincerely, feeling that the lessons I was receiving from my new friend were very important. Focus on what truly matters in your life. Now that I am older and wiser, I've found that what I once believed was great was, in fact, very small, and all the things I previously thought were small, insignificant things turned out to be the great things, the things that truly mattered most. But how can I connect with my death? Ask yourself the ultimate questions. The answer was very clear. The ultimate questions? I haven't heard of those, Mr. Caleb. What are you talking about? I sat up in bed, completely stunned by what I was hearing from this strange and somewhat mysterious man. When you lie on your deathbed, taking your last breaths, only 3 questions will come to mind. These are what I call a person's ultimate questions. And since they will be the most important things at the end of your life, why not boldly make them your most important things today? What are those questions? I asked, feeling that what I was about to hear could change my life. They are very simple. Have I lived wisely? Have I loved? And have I given much? Can you explain each one? I asked eagerly. I know it's late, but this information could really change everything for me. Jack, though I do need some sleep, I appreciate your enthusiasm. It's clear to me that you and I were meant to meet. That's how this world works. People will come into your life at precisely the moment you need to learn the lesson they are there to teach you most. I believe that. Our world is a very wise place, and our lives unfold according to a series of natural laws that couldn't be more wonderful. We humans think that our lives are governed by random events and that the people who come and go are purely by chance. Nothing could be further from the truth. In our world, there is no chaos, only order. No coincidence, none at all. Our lives are not the result of luck or misfortune, but of a very intelligent process designed to help us evolve into our best selves. How do you know this? I just know, and so will you, Caleb stated resolutely. Amazing, I replied, sinking into thought. You were born to give your gifts to the world. But the way is that before you can shine as a person, truly shine, you must do the inner work I mentioned earlier. You must seek to understand yourself. You must look at your limiting beliefs and recreate them. And you must analyze the false assumptions you have about what you can be, have, and do as a person, and then correct them. You need to become aware of your reactions and actions in different life scenarios and recreate them. And you must face your fears and overcome them. Only then can you open your heart and care more for the happiness of others than for your own happiness. And once you do that, paradoxically, you will become happy. So, it's all arranged in a very methodical way, I said, summarizing the knowledge I had just gained. The world has its own order and laws. I guess the first thing I have to do is understand the natural laws that govern the world, right? Yes, my son, Caleb replied, visibly pleased by my openness to his philosophy of life. Once you allow yourself to abide by those laws, you will access your true power. You will become a force of nature, and your life will transform from a struggle into a life of ease and flow. You will become what you've always dreamed of. Very naturally, you will bring into your life everything your heart desires without effort. Your life will begin to operate as if guided by magic. I absorbed his words for a moment before speaking. I'm wondering exactly where I should start. I confess this has been a real struggle for me. I truly don't know who I am anymore, and I'm very eager to make my life better. I recently broke up with my girlfriend. I can't seem to continue my work. I never have much money at the end of the month, even though I have a pretty good salary, and it seems deep down I always have a craving to live a completely different life. Trust that craving, my son. Excuse me, I asked, unsure if I had heard him correctly. Trust that craving, Caleb repeated. I've learned from my teachers that only when we delve into the emotions and desires that most of us try to avoid do we find our greatest answers. Our emotions give us great clarity and convey knowledge in our subconscious perception. And our subconscious perception is the link that connects us to the wisdom of the universe. Our conscious thoughts are limited, but our subconscious thoughts are infinite, Most of us deny our emotions. Society teaches us to do so. From a very young age, we disconnect from our own feelings. We're told not to cry, not to laugh too loudly, and that feeling sad or even angry is very wrong. But our emotions are not right or wrong. They are simply feelings and an important part of the human experience. Denying them is how you're killing a part of yourself, and if you continue to do so, you will lose touch with your true self. You will begin to live purely by reason, and you will stop feeling. Caleb paused for a moment and looked directly into my eyes. I'd be willing to bet that all you do all day is think, and think. Your mind is a non-stop machine, and you have no inner peace. You've stopped living in the present moment and truly feeling what's alive. You're too busy living in the past or the future. Do you know that the mind rarely lives in the present? It's always worrying about the past or thinking about the future. But those things aren't real. All that's real is the moment right before you. Don't miss that moment, because that's where your life is. Too true, I remarked with a sigh. The words of this man rang with truth. I felt it in my body. This is all starting to make a lot of sense. I wish more people could hear the wisdom you're sharing with me and have their eyes opened. The world would be a much better place. They will understand it when they are ready. The old proverb says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. We all know we can't push the river to flow. I guess the world today is too skeptical, I replied. We no longer believe in the dreams we had as children. We don't believe we have the power to create the lives we want. We don't think we can make a real difference with what we do. Caleb nodded. And that's why so many of us are stuck. We have extraordinary power right within ourselves. We've just lost our connection to it. Part of the reason for this is fear. The opportunities available to us in our lives are truly vast. The miracles we have the potential to create in our lives, once we harmonize with the power of nature, are immense. Truly so. But this potential also carries certain responsibilities, and this frightens us, so we don't believe in ourselves. We deny our power and erect obstacles to achieving the extraordinary life we desire. It's almost as if we self-sabotage. We run away from the very things we want most. That's exactly what we're doing. We pretend we don't care, and we act as if we're nothing special. We close our eyes to how the world works, so we don't believe in the natural laws that control it. And these laws only work in your life once you commit all the faith you have as a human being to them. They don't work if you don't believe they will. To access our best lives, each of us must make fundamental changes in our thinking. More importantly, we must make fundamental changes in our hearts. And that begins with believing in the laws of nature that I am telling you about. So first I need to believe that these laws work, and then they will. Precisely. It's somewhat like a fireplace. You need to put wood in before you get warmth. Sitting in front of a fireplace with no wood won't make you warmer. Most people don't believe. They have no faith in the greatness of the universe and their exciting role within it. That's why their lives lack attraction. It's because they don't understand how the world works, and also because they are no longer leaders. I was confused by that remark. What do you mean? The starting point of enlightenment, a goal everyone needs to strive for, is inner leadership. Leadership goes far beyond what business people do in their work. Leadership is personal responsibility, self-discovery, and creating value in this world by the very people we become. Too many people waste time blaming others for everything that goes wrong in their lives. We blame our spouses for unhappy family lives. We blame our bosses for workplace frustrations. We blame strangers on the highway for making us angry. We blame our parents for giving us too little. Blame, 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 and blame. But blaming others is nothing more than making excuses for ourselves. Blaming others for the quality of our current lives is a very sad way to live. By doing so, all we are doing is accepting the role of victim. Is that so? Certainly, because when you live that way, what you are essentially saying is that you are incapable of living your own life. What you are saying is that for your life to change, your wife must change, or your boss must change, or the people on the highway must change. That is a powerless way to live. Where is the leadership in such a philosophy of life? Caleb remarked, his voice growing louder with his emotion. The only way to take your life to the next level is to act like a leader and take true leadership of your life. The moment you look in the mirror and tell yourself with your own resolve, to change my life, I must change. That's when you will grow and step through the doorway that will lead you to your best life. I wonder why that is. Because that's when you will take your life into your own hands, Caleb said enthusiastically, raising his hand in the air. You will take on the responsibility of owning the destiny meant for you. You will stop resisting your life and embrace it. You will harmonize with the immutable laws of nature that I am sharing with you. You will reclaim your power. Caleb paused and looked deeply into my eyes. Point your finger at me, my son, he said. Excuse me. Do it, he replied decisively. I raised my hand and pointed directly at my very peculiar roommate. What do you notice? He asked. I feel like I'm being stripped bare, I replied honestly. No, my son, think more deeply. What is it that all of us need to do more of as we go through life? Reflection is the mother of wisdom, you know? All right, now you've pointed one finger straight at me, but who are the other fingers pointing at? I was stunned by Caleb's simple yet powerful demonstration. His meaning was clear. If we point one finger at someone else, we have 3 other fingers pointing back at ourselves. I shared this observation with him. Now you understand, he exclaimed joyfully. Don't blame others for everything you don't like in your life. Look in the mirror and reclaim responsibility for your own life. That's how you begin to change yourself and begin the leadership of your own life. I smiled at him. Yes, I see where you're coming from now, sir. I took a moment to let Caleb's profound lessons and thoughts sink in. Then I said, you don't think like most people. I know, that's because I see more than most people. But that's not because I'm better than anyone else, but simply because I was taught by the best, Caleb replied humbly. What do you mean by that? Well, that reminds me of what the father of classical physics, Isaac Newton, said. If I have seen further than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants. You see, I was fortunate to have some excellent guidance in my life. The wisdom I am sharing with you is not mine. Really? Yes, I learned from my 3 teachers, 3 great people who changed my life. I owe them everything. Can I meet them? I asked eagerly. Of course, you can. In fact, it will be sooner than you think. They will be the ones who explain to you the meaning of the ultimate questions I spoke of earlier. They will be the ones who truly give you the answers you are looking for. They are the best sources I know for becoming a true leader of one's life and living in harmony with the natural laws of the world. What does that mean? They are the masters. I am merely a student. Just then, Caleb began to cough. The cough was normal at first, but quickly became violent. His face turned red, and sweat dripped down his forehead. "Oh God, Mr. Caleb, should I call the nurse?" I asked worriedly. "No, I'm fine," he replied, panting and pale. "I really think I need to get some sleep. I promise that tomorrow will be a very wonderful day for you. Perhaps even your best day and maybe a new beginning for you," he said, his blue eyes sparkling like stars on a cold winter night. "I truly am very happy to have met you, Jack," Caleb continued. "As I said, it means a great deal, this wonderful connection we've made. We entered each other's lives tonight for a reason. That's how this world works," he said with a smile as he turned over and pulled the blanket up to his shoulders, chuckling to himself. "That's how this world works. Life truly is amazing." The room was silent for a moment. "Oh, and by the way, my son," he added very softly, "I love you." Chapter 2, Setting Out. To live in the hearts of those we leave behind is never to die. Thomas Campbell. The next morning, I woke up with bright sunlight streaming across my face. I felt much better, and although I knew it would take some time to fully recover, I had found a new hope. I realized that no matter what happened, I would be okay. Last night's conversation between me and Caleb, a peculiar man, had made me feel a joy I hadn't experienced in years. His wisdom and philosophy on how our lives unfold were truly impressive, and I was eager for him to introduce me to the 3 teachers who had changed his life. Although I thought it was a bit odd when he said he loved me as he prepared for sleep, I assumed it was simply another one of his habits for living a better life. I was impatient to continue our conversation and learn more from this man I was quickly coming to respect immensely. "Good morning, Mr. Caleb," I enthusiastically called out, stretching like a cat on my hospital bed. "Today is going to be a great day for us, sir." Caleb was facing away and didn't answer. "Hey, Mr. Caleb, it's 10 o'clock. Time to get up. Don't make me come over there and pull you out of bed," I said playfully. But Caleb didn't move. My stomach suddenly tightened. My mind began to reel, and I feared the worst. "Nurse," I yelled. "Quick, I need help." 3 nurses rushed into the room. "I think something is wrong with Mr. Caleb. He was fine last night until he started coughing. He told me he was okay, but now it doesn't seem right." Caleb remained motionless as the nurses turned their attention to him. "I hope he's all right," I said, full of worry. "Mr. Caleb is gone," the eldest nurse announced. "I am so sorry," she added in a gentler tone. "Mr. Caleb had been very ill for a long time, Jack," another nurse explained. "The cancer had spread throughout his body, and there was nothing more we could do. He requested to be moved up here last night. None of us knew why. It was his last wish. We were happy to fulfill it. He just said he had known you for a long time and wanted to see you." The elder nurse said, "Mr. Caleb was always a mysterious man, you know." "I know," I replied. I felt a real sadness in my heart at the loss of someone I knew had entered my life like an angel, guiding it in a new direction and showing me the new beginning I had been longing for. "He was a strange man," I said respectfully. "I can't believe he's gone. In such a short time, he changed me in ways I don't fully understand yet." "That's life," all 3 nurses said together. They spoke the departed's words, then smiled at each other. "We loved Mr. Caleb," one nurse reiterated. "Here," she added, as another nurse covered Caleb's face with a white sheet and wheeled him out of the room. "He left a package for you and asked us to give it to you this morning. Perhaps he knew last night that he would be leaving," she said softly, her eyes welling up with tears. "Let me get it for you." The nurse returned a few minutes later and handed me a beautifully wrapped package in decorative paper featuring children swimming and playing in the sea. The images were skillfully hand-drawn and colored with crayons. They were truly peculiar. "Can I open this alone?" I asked the nurse. "It's meant for me, and I want to open it myself. It's also how I'll pay my respects to Mr. Caleb." "Of course, you can. Don't hesitate," she replied. "We're all very sad about Mr. Caleb, but please let us know anything you need. We'll just be down the hall in the nurse's station." "Thank you." I carefully unwrapped the package and had to peel back several layers of tissue paper to get to the gift inside. The moment I saw it, I was astonished by what I beheld. 3 plane tickets were neatly stacked one on top of the other. Looking closer, I saw they were all first-class tickets to 3 famous places in the world: Rome, Hawaii, and New York. Accompanying the tickets was a map for each destination, with directions scribbled in red ink and a circled X, indicating the location where I believed I needed to go. The final component of this gift was a handwritten letter from Caleb. The letter read, "Dearest Jack, I'm sorry to have left you so soon, my son. I knew my time was short. You are a good man with much promise, and I know that you will have a glorious, interesting, and fulfilling life. I depart not with sadness, but with immense happiness and contentment. You see, I have lived a good life, enjoying starlit feasts and special moments under the sun. I have walked through life's valleys and experienced deep sorrows. I have also climbed to the highest peaks and found more happiness than I had a right to. Yes, I made many mistakes, but my son, I am a realist, I always have been. Therefore, I'd rather risk and fail than not risk at all. I know you are now at a crossroads in your life. Although this is a difficult time as you search for answers to life's biggest questions, remember that it is also a wonderful moment. People are most enlightened when they live in what they don't know. For this is where anything and everything is possible. Open your heart to the world, and the world will begin to open to you. I cannot teach you everything you need to know. Although I grew wiser with every step of my journey, there are teachers you need to sit at the feet of and learn their great wisdom. As soon as you are fully recovered, I urge you to visit them. They are passionate and highly respected individuals. Each of them has discovered how to create an extraordinary life. They have agreed to be your guides. I am giving you 3 plane tickets. First, go to Rome and follow the directions on the map to meet your first teacher. Everything has been arranged. Once there, you will learn about the first ultimate question: have I lived wisely? You will discover how to steer your life to live more profoundly and knowingly. From this first teacher, you will learn the importance of discovering the inner gifts of your life so that you can live peacefully on the outside. You will learn how to delve deeply within yourself as a human being. Then go to Hawaii. The teacher you meet there is a very colorful character. But don't be fooled by his simple appearance and humorous demeanor. He is a true master. He will explain to you a wonderful philosophy surrounding the second ultimate question: have I truly loved? From him, you will learn how to love life itself and every moment that occurs in your life. He will inspire you to experience your happiness, live with a magnificent sense of adventure, and open your heart to a whole new reality. And then, to complete your personal transformation, you will go to New York. There you will meet a truly special person who will help you with the third ultimate question: have I given much? With this teacher, you will be guided on how to become a leader on this planet, not just in your career, but in your life. This entire process will take 3 months, but I promise that you will be fundamentally changed by it. How do I know this? Because I too was changed by what they taught me. Do not let the subtle aggression that may be starting to rise in your mind right now overcome you. This destructive attitude always appears when we are given an opportunity to grow. It is nothing more than the voice of fear. And that is not the truth. That is not you. Trust the process that I am presenting to you with all my love. Cast aside all your doubts about this path you are about to embark on and simply step onto it with the curiosity of a child. Just know that when you emerge from the other side, you will be a new person, or, more precisely, far different from the person you truly are right now, as if reborn. I wish I could guide you through this entire process, but this is a solo journey that you must undertake alone. So I wish you well, my son. I bless you. I pray for your success. I send you all my love. Your father, Caleb Valentine. After reading the letter, I was truly surprised. Was Caleb truly the father I never knew? So many unanswered questions lingered in my mind. Where had he been all these years? Why hadn't he tried to contact me? Why didn't he tell me who he was in his final hours? Should I love him or be angry with him for abandoning my mother and me all those years? I was completely confused. I felt old wounds reopening. Then I looked down at the package, wondering if the plane tickets were real and if Caleb's instructions were trustworthy. Would the journey he suggested be safe? But then something within me began to change. Caleb had been so kind to me during our brief time together. I felt that all he wanted to do in his final hours on this earth was to help me, guide me, and teach me. I sensed his love, and I knew it was real. His wish for me was to take this journey, and I felt compelled to do so. I had struggled with my pain for days, but I knew I would be okay. Sitting alone in my hospital bed, only one thing dominated my consciousness: faith. And I was right. In this moment, I didn't have to figure everything out anymore. My life was unfolding, and I just had to enjoy the ride. Before, I had spent too much time trying to make it happen, planning, pondering, and worrying. Life had given me an incredible opportunity, and I felt comfortable taking it. I told myself that if thinking was the way to find the answers I needed to create the wonderful life I always wanted, then I would have those answers now. A voice within me spoke, "There's another way to live, Jack, and it's much more powerful. It's no use just reflecting in your head. Everything will be done by listening to the promptings of your heart. Don't be too busy trying. Start spending more time living. Intend to connect your life with the natural power that governs this world. The answers you need are all there." I had once read a passage by the revered philosopher Abraham Maslow. His words were profoundly applicable to the journey I was about to undertake. I want to share them with you. We fear our greatest possibilities. We are generally afraid of what we only glimpse in our most perfect moments, under the most perfect conditions, in moments of great courage. We like and even tremble when we see ourselves in such peak moments. And at the same time, we shudder at our weakness, cowardice, and fear of those very possibilities. As I closed my eyes, I felt the sunlight on my face and every beat of my heart. Deep within me, I understood that my life, my best life, was coming to me. I felt that destiny was bringing it to me. Chapter 3: Discovering How the World Truly Works. Those who live nobly, even if they live in seclusion all their lives, will not live in vain. Something always emanates from their lives, a light that illuminates the path for their friends, their neighbors, and perhaps for distant future ages. Bertrand Russell. "Remember who you are," she said. "You are a master, Anna's." Spring weather had begun, and I was in Rome. It was a wonderful time. I had fully recovered from the accident and had never felt healthier. I had 3 months off and had rented my apartment to an old college friend, and she couldn't have been happier with her luck. I had ended my relationship with my ex-girlfriend, and I was happy to say we parted as friends. For the first time in years, I felt very at peace with my life, and I was ready for an adventure. My experience with Caleb never left my mind. Since our strange encounter, not a day had passed without me thinking about him and his wisdom at least a few times. His knowledge had taken deep root in me, and since the day he passed, every day brought me new insights into his unique worldview. I found that he was entirely worthy of my trust. The first-class ticket to Rome was legitimate, and as he had promised, everything for the trip had been meticulously arranged. Caleb had clearly put a lot of heart into my transformation and had paid close attention to every detail of this once-in-a-lifetime journey. Now, I could feel his love for me. I can't believe I'm in Rome with plenty of time and nothing to worry about except a backpack with a few changes of clothes, I thought as I leisurely walked along the narrow cobblestone streets of the city's old quarter. The air carried a pleasant aroma that made me smile and relax in this fresh environment. I felt as though I was born to be in this extraordinary place, where my journey of self-discovery was beginning. It was almost as if destiny had woven Caleb into my life, and destiny had led me to the place where I stood now. All I could do was truly be present in this moment and open my heart to whatever was about to happen to me. This was an entirely different approach for me, completely alien to the rigid, pre-planned lifestyle that characterized me before the car accident. Yet, a part of me knew that this new approach was far more powerful than before. My life now seemed to be leading me, and I was ready to receive its gifts and enjoy its surprises. More specifically, it was almost as if invisible hands or an invisible force were guiding me into my highest and truest life. It's truly hard to explain how this felt at this moment in my life, but I dare say I felt completely at ease and profoundly peaceful. I came to understand that this force, this invisible power, was the power of nature. It was the same power that created the stars and sunsets. It pulsated within every living entity and was present for anyone who chose to discover and then connect with it. It all began with a commitment to cast aside all the veils that most of us have erected before our worldview and to seek the truth. And the truth became clearer to me as I delved deeper into myself. I believed this was true leadership as a human being. It was nothing less than a quest for one's personal truth, the truth about what we experienced in the past and what we can become in the future. The truth about why we are here and how we got to where we are. Discovering the truth and then leading our lives according to it is what sets us free. Through my own experiences and lessons along life's path, I had come to understand that leading my life also meant loosening my grip on reality. All of us need to break this addictive habit of needing to predict how our lives will unfold. The crux of the matter is that we evolve into our strongest selves, or at least begin this process, precisely when we dare to relinquish all the control we fearfully cling to and open ourselves to all the possibilities our magnificent universe offers. It is a profound act of humility because it requires us to surrender the belief that we know what is best for us. It requires us to realize that what we think is necessary in life to make us happy may not actually be what we truly need. And I say this act of loosening control is a profound act of humility because we must allow life to run its course. I know it's a terrifying feeling at first, but I found that on the other side of our greatest fears lies our greatest fortune. I suppose it's just a matter of having faith that even when our lives don't go according to our most carefully laid plans, they will still unfold smoothly. And it's about believing in a higher success that extends far beyond what we can currently see. Arthur Schopenhauer almost achieved this when he remarked, "Every man takes the limits of his own field of vision for the limits of the world." But some people don't see it that way. Join those people. I followed Caleb's directions for about an hour until I approached a place marked on the map with an X. His scribbled note cryptically read, "Find the stained glass window, and you will see the world through new lenses." As I continued my search for the building marked on the map, I saw something that took my breath away. Before me was a magnificent cathedral with wide-open doors and rose bushes lining the steps. Baroque music emanated from the main entrance, and the beautiful sounds spilled onto the street. The columns at the front of the cathedral were stone-clad, and sure enough, proudly standing in the very center was the most beautiful stained glass window I had ever seen. I stood spellbound, listening to the music and immersing myself in that wonderful moment. My eyes began to well up with tears, my heart started to beat faster, and my hands grew clammy with sweat. Our lives, I realized, are nothing more than a series of moments. If you miss the moment, you miss your life. Thankfully, I was wise enough to savor that special moment. That moment that somehow connected me to something even greater than myself. The feeling I had reminded me that I was not alone and that I had not yet finished my life. It reminded me of Margaret Fishback Power's famous Footprints story, which tells of a man who dreamed he was walking on a beach with the Lord. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. And with each scene, he noticed two sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to him and the other to the Lord. Suddenly, the man noticed something remarkable as he reviewed all the scenes of his life. During the hardest and most trying times of his life, there was only one set of footprints in the sand. The man questioned the Lord about this observation, expressing his disappointment that he felt alone when he needed help the most. The Lord lovingly explained that during those times of suffering, he carried the man. I was still contemplating the very special dream that had changed the man's perception of the world when a strong voice resonated from inside the cathedral. "Jack, you made it. So glad to see you here." A priest rushed out to greet me. He was dressed in traditional religious attire, with a rosary in one hand and a book adorned with a bright red ribbon in the other. He leisurely descended the steps and stopped directly in front of me, smiling. "This is for you, Jack," he said, handing me a book. "Caleb told me you would come. We are all ready to welcome you. I hope you like this gift. It will be a journal for you to record your insights." Journaling is a very good habit for self-transformation, and I know you will have many observations to record during your stay here. My stay here. Yes, my young friend, you will be staying here with me at the cathedral for the next 4 weeks. I will be your life coach, helping you access your highest and best self. I will teach you about things like destiny, authenticity, and integrity. I will show you how to access your true power, and I will connect you with your own spirit. We will have a wonderful time together, he said enthusiastically. "Thank you, Father, but to be honest, I'm not really a religious person," I said very frankly. "What I have to teach you has nothing to do with religion. To be a spiritual person is actually to be an authentic person. It is to live by your own highest values, to live truly the way you live, and to see the world in a more enlightened and evolved way. Yes, I'm absolutely ready, I replied, putting my luggage on the ground and taking a sip from my water bottle. I'm more ready for life changes than ever before. Excellent. Caleb asked me to arrange everything for you, and I'm very happy to do so. I will teach you about the meaning of life. I will explain exactly how to awaken your highest talents, how to access your deepest wisdom, and how to leave a legacy. Essentially, I will show you what it means to live wisely, to live a wise life. This is the first of the ultimate questions, I remarked, recalling the 3 important questions of life that Caleb had explained to me on our memorable evening at the hospital. Exactly, I will strive so that when the time comes for you to ask yourself, have I lived wisely? Your answer will be, absolutely. I want you to live so wisely that you will depart happy. Welcome to Rome, he said with all the affection and enthusiasm of an Italian opera star. Forgive me, I haven't introduced myself. I am Father Michael Antonio DeFranco. Friends call me Father Mike, he said with a wink. It's a pleasure to meet you, Father Mike. I'm very grateful for your warm welcome, I said sincerely, feeling completely at ease getting to know this small man with a round face and slicked back hair. You knew Mr. Caleb too? Oh, yes, your father was a wonderful man, Jack, a very special person in many ways. He told me all about you. Even though you're a grown man now, you look just like you did as a little boy in the photograph he always carried with him. That's why I recognized you so easily today. I still can't believe that Caleb was my father. Do you know why he left my mother and me? Why he never tried to contact me? If he was my father, do you think he should have sought me out? I asked, anger rising within me. No father ever forgets his children. I don't know much about the reasons your parents separated. All he told me was that he and your mother went their separate ways after his business fell on hard times. I think your father started to look inward after he lost his fortune, and from then on, the way he experienced the world began to change. I think at some point they both realized they were heading in different directions, like strangers. Caleb told me he still loved your mother, but I guess they both knew they couldn't walk the same path anymore. I can't imagine how painful that must have been for you, Jack, but you need to know that your father was a respected man. He truly cared deeply about everyone, and he cared most deeply about you. Thank you for telling me that, I replied softly. As a child, I had spent many sleepless nights wondering about my father. He wasn't present at my Christmas concerts, my school performances, or my ball games. I felt a little comfort knowing that he truly loved me. Your father gave me the nickname, the Saint, because I have spent my life living in a noble, wise, and truthful way. He knew me many years before he learned the lessons you are about to learn. Caleb was a philosopher in the truest sense of the word. He was eager to learn and very dedicated to deepening his wisdom. And as I mentioned, that is the best thing a person can do. Do you know that he embarked on a journey that you are now beginning? Like father, like son, he laughed. By the way, I'm very glad you're finally here. I'm very glad to be here too, Father, but honestly, I'm not entirely sure about all of this. Frankly, I have to admit I feel anxious. So much has happened in such a short time. I understand, Jack, I completely understand. You are about to learn new things, so your apprehensions are beginning to surface as anxiety and uncertainty. That's natural. But you must believe. Isn't that what all of this is about? Trust. Believe that Caleb appeared when you needed to meet him most. Believe that you and I are connected for a special reason. Believe that there is no better place for you than where you are right now. And believe that after 4 weeks here with me, you will have a completely new way of thinking and living. We can change how we see the world in an instant. A single change, happening in a brief second, can sometimes be all it takes to awaken a new reality for you. So you are one of the great teachers my father spoke of? I asked as he put his arm around me and led me up the steps of the cathedral. Yes, absolutely. Your father was truly a wonderful man. I know he made mistakes in his life, such as not finding you and showing you his love. But I have never met a perfect person. The human condition is imperfection. But I have come to understand that we are truly perfect in our imperfections. Without weaknesses, we would have nothing to strive for. As the mystics used to say, man is worth nothing when he reaches his goal. Our less than ideal characteristics are, in fact, precious treasures that help open gateways to becoming higher versions of ourselves than we are now. This last point caught my attention. Could Father Mike be right? I thought about my life journey, the challenges I faced in my youth, and the struggles I encountered along the way, my string of failed relationships. And the truth was, no matter how hard I tried, I could never seem to find work that truly suited who I was. Perhaps all this imperfection in my life was, in fact, perfect. Everything happened exactly as it was meant to, and there was a larger plan I was unaware of. And perhaps all my imperfections as a person were actually opportunities for me to grow. These thoughts relaxed me and brought me an immediate sense of relief. Imperfection gives meaning to our lives, Father Mike continued. It gives us a central task, to journey back to the pristine and ideal self we were when we were born and to rediscover our true selves. If it weren't for our very human shortcomings, there would be no inner task to perform for ourselves. And it is this inner task that connects us back to our own greatness. You see, Jack, to have more of what you want in your life, you must first go beyond who you currently are. True success is not just about working harder, but about living more. I completely agree with that. I feel incredibly tired of feeling that no matter how much I work or how much fun I gather, it's never enough. Father Mike seemed unsurprised by my emotions. You weren't satisfied with your previous life, were you? No, absolutely not, I replied. In fact, I hated it. It seemed I never found joy. Everything was so serious and monotonous. My God, I never thought life could be so difficult. I confess that to you, Father. Then, to have a new life, you must first think, feel, and act like a new person. In life, we don't truly get what we want in the end. We get what is meant for us. To have new things in your life, for example, a new relationship, new levels of excitement, and new experiences, you must start doing new things. Such as, for example, truly knowing your weaknesses. That is an important starting point. In fact, that's where I started. Overcoming your weaknesses is one of the fundamental reasons we are here. The purpose of our lives, in many ways, is to embrace our dark side so that we can live by our bright side. All of us have blind spots. We need to acknowledge them and bring them into the light of awareness, where they will be overcome. And we need to reshape our false beliefs and overcome our limited emotions. Paradoxically, in the process of moving forward, we are essentially moving backward back to the beautiful and perfect creatures we were when we were born. Father Mike looked around the cathedral and smiled. I was a very ordinary man, he admitted. I truly cared about no one but myself when I was young. In my relationships with others, all I focused on was what I could get from them. Then one day, while I was studying in France, I received a phone call informing me that my brother had just been killed in a nightclub shooting. That event devastated me and changed everything. I began to pray for guidance and the courage to get through that period of my life. There were times of such stress that I thought of taking my own life. But the more I prayed, the more I realized that my life had meaning and that I was very much needed in this world. Eventually, I began to study theology and then found myself here as a priest. And now, in my relationships, I no longer think about what I will get from someone. Instead, all I care about is what I can give. And that, my friend, makes me a very happy man. He paused and then said loudly, "Welcome to Rome." I couldn't help but burst out laughing at his somewhat peculiar demeanor. Let me tell you something. What you don't acknowledge about yourself acknowledges you. Father Mike continued as we walked into the main hall of the cathedral. I don't understand. Precisely. If you don't acknowledge the part of you that always feels you will never be good enough, to take another common example, then it will acknowledge you. If you don't acknowledge a part of yourself that doesn't trust others, then it will seize you and control, then destroy your life in many ways. This continued until I realized my selfishness when I was young, and then I began to change. That makes a lot of sense. I'm wondering why I never understood this before. I guess I was too busy with the mundane things of life that I missed the bigger picture, I said thoughtfully. That's very common. Many people in the world are asleep to their own lives and to this miracle. But now you are ready to take the next step. Previously, you weren't ready for this step, so it never appeared. But now is the time to access your own greatness and get ready for your best life. Your life would not have led you here if you weren't fully prepared for whatever comes your way. Do you agree? I agree. Excellent. By the way, most people deny and avoid engaging with their unacknowledged dark self. Wise people know these parts better than the parts they present to the world. Only when you understand this crucial principle can you find the inner peace and outer joy you deserve. Because only when you know and then accept all of yourself can you truly love yourself. And without self-love, there is no peace, and without peace, there is no joy. Paradoxically, the more you explore your bright side as a person and let it shine into this world, the more the ordinary parts you wanted to hide from yourself begin to reveal themselves. That's very true, I replied. I've seen that happen in my intimate relationships. For example, I've fallen in love and poured all my emotions into it. I became more caring and expressive than before, but then all sorts of negative things started to emerge. Frankly, this happened in my last relationship. I felt I loved Jane more than I ever thought possible. A strange part of me lived with her. We danced for hours in her kitchen and sang together under the moonlight. We told each other our deepest secrets late into the night, and we supported each other's dreams in a way I never thought possible. But things didn't stay good because, for some reason, the worst traits in me emerged and everything got messy. I guess it was because I felt too safe with her. And when we feel safe, it seems our true selves break through the social armor most of us have built to look good to the world. Exactly, Jack. What you've just realized is very profound, and I just want to add that if you study how nature works, you will know how life works. The laws that govern nature are the same laws that govern our lives. For example, have you ever noticed that when the sun shines brightest, our shadows are also largest? Yes, I have, I replied. Father, that's true for us as human beings, a wonderful metaphor, Father Mike, I praised. When we haven't changed within ourselves, it's easy to believe that we are highly evolved and living to our fullest potential. When something negative happens, we think it's someone else's fault. But in reality, it's because all the limiting beliefs, false assumptions, and emotional baggage that keep us ordinary are hidden in a deep, dark place within us. We don't even know they're there, controlling our lives and destroying our dreams. We begin to believe that we are ideal in many ways. We delude ourselves so that we don't have to face our weaknesses and strive to believe in that. It takes immense inner strength to delve deeply into the dark part that keeps us ordinary in life. It takes immense inner strength to take a serious look at how we are living and make the adjustments that will put us back on track. How? Acknowledging our very human imperfections will stimulate the realization that we must change, and humans naturally resist change. In fact, our brains are hardwired to want us to maintain our patterns. Science has shown that our brains have a very ancient part known as the amygdala, which always favors routine and dislikes any personal change. It seeks nothing but safety and immutable control. This tendency was useful for our ancient ancestors and helped them survive in primitive times. But it no longer serves us in today's world. So how do we overcome this tendency of this part of the brain? I asked curiously. I suggest that on a daily basis, you set an intention to make changes consciously. I've learned from my own life that my intentions shape my reality. Teach your brain that change is good and persist on a path that no one else takes in terms of how you express yourself as a person. At this point, Father Mike did something that startled and then amused me. He began to run through the empty pews in the main hall where we stood and disappeared into a small room off to the side. The next thing I knew, Frank Sinatra's classic, My Way, blared, and Father Mike danced joyfully with his eyes closed. I just stood there watching this man, unsure of what was really happening. When the song ended, Father Mike opened his eyes. I used to dread dancing, he said, but now I love it. It helps me keep my heart open. What I just did was take a risk, Jack. I used to be afraid to dance in front of others, but now I've made it a way to confront my fears and chase away my demons. That's fascinating, I could only utter. I constantly try to put myself in challenging situations to force myself to overcome my greatest fears. This strategy works wonders. By the way, what do you think of my dance moves? He asked with a beaming smile. Am I ready for MTV? Not quite, I chuckled. All I'm suggesting is that you wholeheartedly commit to continuous self-discovery and never stop thinking. That is the only way to fully unlock the good within you. I can say this is true, as Erich Fromm once said, man's main task in life is to give birth to himself, to become what he potentially is. And when you do that, the most beautiful perception of reality you can have begins to unfold for you. This is certain. By the way, your father often spoke of you with great love when he was here, so I know a few things about you. Such as, I know you loved swimming as a child, I know you had big dreams when you were young, and I know you love chocolate, he said, pulling a candy bar from his pocket. Here, have a bite, he urged. It's bittersweet, I said as we walked through the magnificent cathedral. Yes, just like life. You see that life has its ups and downs. Most of us get caught up in its drama. When things go well, we feel happy. When things go wrong, we feel sad. That is a very weak way to live. You will be like a piece of wood floating with the current. You change with the water. One moment you're moving in one direction, then you're moving in another. The much wiser way to play the game is to discard all judgment. Stop labeling life experiences as this or that, and simply accept them without resistance. The next step is to understand that life is nothing more than a school for growth, and everything that happens to you is wonderful. Everything. It's a bit hard to accept that the death of a loved one or the loss of a relationship that brought great happiness is a wonderful thing. Only the limited thoughts of man make something right or wrong, Father Mike replied. An event in our lives is inherently neither right nor wrong. It simply is. But because we humans tend to control everything, we constantly assign right and wrong to it, or good and bad. I interjected, yes, but there are no truly good things, nor are there any bad events when you truly deeply understand how the world works. Everything that happens to you is simply an opportunity to grow and overcome the part of you that needs overcoming. The wise understand this and then seize those opportunities to grow even more into their true selves. And that is why I say that life is a school for growth. I pondered this notion, still unsure about the entire concept. Is it true that our lives are, in fact, designed for this purpose? Father Mike continued. Every day when you step out into the world, you are actually going to school. And just like in a traditional school, there is a curriculum with different subjects, offering different lessons. Once you pass a subject by learning its lesson, you move on to a new one. And if you don't learn the lesson, well, then you have to repeat it. Naturally, he said very seriously, that's called remediation. Every experience that intersects with your life comes to you to teach you the lesson you need most to learn, to move on to the next level of your life. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear, I said softly, feeling a pang of sadness due to the loss of the father I had only just come to know. I'm the one who told him that, Father Mike replied with a smile. If you understand this process and recognize the opportunity for a lesson in every situation, you can move on to the next subject. And when you leave the old subject, you will also leave your old life. For, interestingly, once you have learned the lesson you needed, the type of person or situation associated with that lesson will never return to you again. It's almost as if we shed our old skin each time we learn a new lesson, pass a new subject, and move on to higher parts of our life's journey. It truly is a wonderful arrangement, the way everything works. I agree, I commented. Exactly, but if you don't accept the lesson that an experience brings, it can be said that it's because you blame others involved for whatever happened and didn't see the piece of wisdom you were meant to learn. That situation will continue to repeat or reappear in your life until you understand it. And the more lessons you miss, the more painful each event carrying those lessons becomes for you, until you suffer so much that your only choice is to embrace it. Incredible, the way the world works is truly more extraordinary than I ever imagined, I said excitedly, feeling more comfortable with this unusual philosophy of life I was being exposed to. Yes, Jack, exactly. These natural laws that govern everything never cease to amaze us. What I am saying is this: your current reality is nothing more than a perfect reflection of the lessons you need to learn most. That's a very powerful statement, Father Mike, truly revolutionary. Yes, and because you learn more from what goes wrong than from what goes right in life, all the things that go wrong are a gift. Milton Erickson once wrote, "Life will bring you pain. Your responsibility is to create joy." Because you discover more about yourself through failure than through success, let failure be a friend you cherish and learn from. Create joy from failure. You said, let failure be a friend. What does that mean? Everything you dislike about your life, everything that irritates you, and everything that stresses you is a very important teacher. Your sore points give you the best clues about what needs to grow and evolve within you. The things you don't like about your life, your irritations and stresses, are nothing more than vehicles to deliver the lessons you need to learn to pass the subject you're currently in and move on to a new one. By doing so, you will advance to the next part of your life. Exactly. So all the things I don't like about my life are actually my best friends and greatest teachers, because they help me reach my destination, my ideal life. And your highest self, I summarized. I'll tell you more about all of this later, but for now, you just need to know that life is an extraordinary school for growth, and everything that happens to you is sacred. It's a marvelous arrangement. Truly so, the way our intelligent universe works, Father Mike remarked. He paused and looked deeply into my eyes. Do you have any questions? Father, I'd like a few examples of the recurrence process. I think this would help me recognize the process when it happens in my life. Certainly. If the lesson you need to learn most at a certain stage in your life is acceptance, you might find that countless people who annoy you appear in your life. Or if your lesson is to be less controlling, you might find many controlling individuals appearing daily. This reminds me of what the Buddha said many years ago. Imagine that every human being on this earth has been enlightened except for you. They are all your teachers. Each will do precisely what helps you learn patience, wisdom, and compassion. Those are profound words, but I'm surprised a priest would quote the Buddha. I said, ultimately, your quest is simply a search for truth, and all the great religions of the world speak to the same truth. So if the Buddha reached a valuable insight for me to share, I feel compelled to share it with you. That's a great answer, Father, I replied playfully, clapping my hands like a game show host. Returning to the recurrence process, Father Mike said as he began to arrange a vibrant bouquet of flowers that had been placed on a small table in front of the room we were in. If you are not conscious enough to know that this is what is happening, and you deny personal responsibility for your own role in the scenarios you are participating in your life, then those kinds of people, or I should say, these teachers, will continue to appear in your life. They will continue to recur, and in much more painful ways, until you understand your role and your opportunity to advance in each interaction. So it's not until I take some real responsibility in every situation in my life that I can grow and my life can improve. Is that the real message? Yes, and then here's the interesting part: those types of people and situations will stop appearing in your life. Amazing, truly amazing. Well, I have to admit that reality isn't quite so black and white. Once you learn the lesson, a few things can happen. These types of people may stop appearing with the frequency they did before because they came to you as teachers and now their work is done. Yes, what's another possibility? The behavior of these people can change dramatically and very unexpectedly. They will become the kindest, most loving people you have ever met. How can they change so immediately? One explanation is that when you shift from blaming them, as most of us tend to do in such situations, to improving yourself and clearing away the obstacles that need clearing within you, you create a space for them to become their best selves in situations that previously made them difficult. People are fundamentally good, you know. And if you give them unconditional kindness and deep understanding instead of attack and blame, they cannot help but respond in nobler and more enlightened ways than they usually do. When true love and deep caring are met, no one can remain indifferent. Darkness always dissipates in the light. Another explanation is this: we dance with each person and with all the important people in our lives. Oh, dancing again, I said, laughing. This time it's different. This is the relationship dance, and we all have to do it. You could diagram the dance you perform with each important person in your life if you truly want to understand it. Take, for example, that the woman you are dating tells you to clear the dishes after you've had dinner. This can trigger the dance. Your reaction might be to feel controlled by her or to feel annoyed. Then she realizes she overreacted. So her dance step might be to feel guilty and ashamed for hurting you, what she perceives as anger. And so it goes, you both perform a very subtle dance with successive reactive steps that you don't even realize. Each of you pushes the other's buttons, which are nothing more than old wounds from the past that have never been resolved and healed. In fact, most of these wounds are from childhood and have nothing to do with the person you are with right now. In many relationships, the same dance repeats for decades, and because neither party is aware of it and there's no commitment to doing the inner work required to realize what's happening, it just continues. Now, here's the point I want to make. You can change the entire dynamic of any relationship the moment you stop dancing. As soon as you realize the dance has begun, stop doing the move you always do. Just don't participate, choose a higher path. How do I do that, Father? The scenario I just gave you. Simply before you have your usual reaction of annoyance at feeling controlled, capture your thought and choose a higher alternative. Every time you are about to perform your old, self-defeating behavior, make a wiser choice. When you do this, the energy that the old behavior controlled you with will be transmuted into positive personal power. And each time you do this, you will actually create new pathways in your brain, thereby paving the way for new behaviors to emerge in your life. This is the best way to become stronger as a person. Simply choose the highest and most profound possible reaction in every situation. It will get easier, and the results will be astonishing. So, in the scenario we are discussing, instead of being annoyed with your girlfriend, you examine yourself and realize that she truly isn't trying to control you at all. You realize that you are simply misperceiving your girlfriend's behavior as being overbearing, just as your mother used to be with you. In other words, the annoyance you felt wasn't with your current girlfriend, but simply something you had never resolved with your mother. Your girlfriend suggesting you clear the dishes was simply an event that brought you back to your childhood. You realize this, and by doing so, you end the dance. And when you stop dancing with someone, what do they have to do? They can't dance alone, can they? I guessed. Exactly. So by changing your behavior, they are necessarily forced to change theirs. That's why it's much better to change yourself than to waste energy trying to change others. And that's why seeing the opportunity for growth in every situation in your life and then taking personal responsibility instead of blaming others is actually the best way to influence others to change. What you just shared with me will change my relationships, I exclaimed. And of course, there will be situations where your partner has done something wrong, Father Mike continued. In these situations, just remember that the antidote to fear is love. When you back away from someone who is behaving unkindly, you will see that they are actually asking for your help, because either they are afraid or deep down they are hurting. Then you can easily offer them love. Never forget that just before anyone reacts with anger or in a less compassionate way, they have been hurt. That is an important point. People who show anger do so because they are hurt. They need your care, not your condemnation. Remember, when you offer them the kindness that everyone needs, their best self will emerge because you have created a safe place for that self to shine. When you change, others will automatically change because you give them space to reveal themselves. What Father Mike told me was extremely convincing, and it made perfect sense. The more I pondered his theory on how the world works, the more I saw the process of recurrence playing out throughout my life without me ever knowing it. I had experienced such events and encountered such people over and over again. For example, I kept pursuing clients who always promised big contracts but never actually delivered, causing me immense disappointment and costing the company a lot of money. I also seemed to have met more than a few people whom I felt were impolite to me. Often, everyone I encountered in a day seemed ready for an argument and had a negative attitude. If what Father Mike had just said was true, then these weren't random events. Instead, they were part of a script written for me, part of a school for growth that I had been attending since birth. And the only reason these people kept appearing, and these events kept repeating, was because I hadn't yet learned the life lesson I needed to learn. I began to think more deeply about the people who had appeared in my life. For some reason, I kept pursuing girlfriends who wanted a deeper relationship than I was ready for. The more they cared for me and showed affection, the more I became distant, fearing the loss of personal freedom that I believed a truly intimate relationship would cause. Perhaps, just perhaps, this kept happening for a reason. There was a lesson I needed to learn in the recurring scenarios throughout my life. What was that lesson? Perhaps it was time for me to open up and let others in. It was time for me to become a different person, kinder, more compassionate. Was I perhaps reenacting a pattern I unconsciously adopted from my parents' relationship? Well, perhaps it was time for me to stop being afraid of losing my freedom and understand that true joy in life only appears when it is shared with someone you love. I had never engaged in this kind of self-criticism in my life. I had never taken the time to delve deep and examine my negative traits and behaviors. This was like undertaking an investigation that brought awareness to the neglected parts of myself. But now, I could see that this was one of the most important activities a person could undertake. Someone who doesn't truly know themselves knows nothing at all. And perhaps it was precisely because of the tragic accident that I was forced to look inward. When life is smooth and comfortable, I realize that we tend to live on a superficial level. When life becomes difficult and we experience a crisis, we always come to examine our inner selves. And so, I thought that the mystics and sages of the past were right when they observed that life's greatest difficulties are, in fact, its greatest blessings, for they deepen us and lead us to a broader experience of life. Failure always leads to breakthrough. The more I thought, the clearer the recurring patterns in my life became. It seemed I had attracted many people into my life who often expressed things in a way that hurt my feelings. Perhaps things happened that way because I needed to learn a life lesson. Perhaps, as I observed, my self-worth needed improvement, and I had to embrace things less selfishly. Suddenly, the skeptical part of me spoke, wondering if life truly worked that way. Perhaps Father Mike, though well-intentioned, was a bit delusional, good at presenting such fascinating theories but detached from the practical world. Then, in my consciousness, two words popped up: faith. Deep in my soul, I knew he was speaking the truth, and that was all I truly needed to know. "All right, my young friend," Father Mike said, breaking my reverie. He picked up my backpack and led me up a spiral staircase. "That's enough for one day. Let me show you your room. I know you'll love the view there. It overlooks all of Rome. At night, you can gaze at the stars. This will be your home for the next month. Oh, I forgot. Let me give you the key." Father Mike handed me a golden key with a metal tag attached and then led me into the living room. It was a small room, sparsely furnished but impeccably clean. A single daisy, the flower of happiness, rested in a silver vase on the bedside table. And just as Father Mike had promised, the view was spectacular. When I turned to thank Father Mike for his generosity, I realized he had already left. Then I looked at the metal tag attached to the key. There was a quote engraved on it, which read, "The only demons in the world are those that run in our hearts. That is where the battle needs to take place." Mahatma Gandhi. Chapter 4. We can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when an adult is afraid of the light. Plato. Behind all that is seen, something greater is hidden. Everything is just a path, a gate, or a window opening to something else. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I slept more soundly than I had in a long time and dreamed a wonderful dream that I was a child again, full of joy, passion, and innocence. I was dancing barefoot on a grassy patch in a small mountain region, surrounded by snow-capped peaks and valleys full of flowers. I could hear other children laughing and playing as I danced ecstatically in the wonder of the moment. My heart felt happy, my mind was still, and I was completely at peace. I was startled awake by a gentle hand shaking me. Father Mike was waking me up. He was smiling, and his eyes twinkled as he expressed gratitude for the beautiful morning outside. "Another wonderful day, Jack," he said. "Let's not miss a single moment. I have so much I want to share with you. Why don't you get ready and meet me downstairs? We can have a quick breakfast and chat on the front steps." "Great," I replied. "After our conversation yesterday, Father, I have a few questions I really want to ask you." "Excellent," Father Mike replied. It was truly a beautiful morning, and the cathedral steps were a wonderful place to sit and chat. The scent of roses wafted around us, and watching all the people walking along the street deepened my connection to the ancient city of Rome, where so much of the world's wisdom was created. "Yesterday you told me that life is a school of growth, Father Mike. Every person and every experience comes to us to teach us the lesson we need most to learn at that specific point in our lives. We can consciously act on this truth of nature, or we can shut our eyes tightly, and by doing so, we continue to repeat the mistakes of the past until the pain becomes so great that we have no choice but to change." "Excellent summary," Father Mike said as he slowly ate a piece of fresh bread spread with gorgonzola cheese. "Sooner or later, the student becomes the teacher," he added, very encouragingly. "Father, I'm wondering if everyone has to follow the same curriculum you mentioned. I mean, do each of us have to learn the same lessons and take the same subjects in this school of growth?" "That's an excellent question, Jack. You'll progress very well here with me, I'm sure of it, Father Mike said, as we relaxed in the sun. It was one of those days where, even with the bright sun, you could still see the moon in the blue sky. To answer your question, every single person on this planet has a different curriculum assigned to them. It is a unique learning process for each individual. The lessons I need to learn in my life may be very different from the lessons destiny has set for you. My curriculum might be designed to teach me to be less aggressive and more accepting. And my life lessons might teach me to give more, to let go of feelings of inadequacy, to abandon the need for control, and to accept the flow of life. On the other hand, Father Mike continued, your curriculum might be designed to teach you to get out of your head and live more from your heart, to live in the moment and feel, not just ponder. It might be about shedding your egocentric attitude and considerations around competition. Give yourself wholeheartedly to helping others. Your learning path might be to see the good in everyone, not just focus on their weaknesses. It might even be to recognize your own worth and not let anyone make you feel inferior. That's profound, I thought, as if this man knew my deepest problems and most private inner struggles. The way he presented it was so clear and easy to understand. My mother had a similar ability. So much of what she did came from her intuition. She knew exactly what she needed to do in any situation and trusted this completely. If I always made my choices based on reason and logic, I felt that my mother always relied on deeper, wiser hunches. In any case, Father Mike continued, his mouth still full of bread, all I truly wanted to convey yesterday was that every event and every person who enters our lives does so for a reason. Remember, there are no coincidences. The world is a giant machine dedicated to detecting our needs for growth and then sending us the corresponding people and events to foster this growth. The profound point related to this is that the people who appear in our lives are mirrors reflecting both the brightest and darkest parts of ourselves. Are you serious, Father? I asked. Yes, you cannot see a wonderful quality in others unless you know that quality within yourself. Could that be so? You cannot recognize something as good in someone if you don't know what it is at all. Precisely, if you have never seen what caviar looks like, you cannot recognize it on someone else's plate at a banquet. Similarly, if you don't recognize a talent or a positive trait within yourself, you cannot see it in others. If you don't truly know what it means to love others, you will have no way of knowing when someone shows you love. If you lack a personal talent, such as intelligence, you won't be able to appreciate it in others. To see something great in others is to see greatness within yourself. I should also mention that this principle holds true for the negative traits you cannot stand in others. What do you mean, Father? Father Mike replied, for you to notice someone else is angry, you must first know what anger truly is. For you to call someone angry, there must be anger within you. For you to recognize someone as selfish, you must have a bit of selfishness within you. For you to call someone attractive, you must also have an attractive side. Otherwise, there would be no way for you to recognize these characteristics. All of life is nothing more than a reflection. Like a giant movie projector, we project our inner selves onto the outside world around us. We attract what we reflect. That's fascinating, I replied. Can you give me a quick example? Certainly. Suppose you are in a record store. You are in one of those stores that allows you to listen to the latest albums, and you are enjoying the tunes you are hearing. Suddenly, a store employee approaches you and demands that you not listen so much. He speaks loudly and rudely. If you react by yelling back at him, to me, that means there is something within you that needs to be examined and remedied. But he was rude to me, I exclaimed. I didn't cause any trouble. Jack, you cannot get something from nothing. All that can arise from you is what is already within you. Ultimately, you cannot get ketchup from a lemon. In reality, this man received anger from you due to your sore point. Meaning, anger already existed within you, didn't it? I have to admit that explanation is very convincing. So this man merely triggered the anger within you. If you don't understand that reality, it will continue to control you. That anger was actually present before he entered your life. That's what I call a pre-existing condition. You need to recognize it and take responsibility for it, not blame him. He is merely an agent. It's like the French philosopher Antoine de Saint-Exupéry once wrote, "No event can awaken in us a stranger wholly unknown to us. To live is to be born from." So the enlightened way to see the situation in the music store is to view this rude employee as a great gift, an opportunity to grow and evolve from this situation if you are wise. With his rude behavior, he brought you to a part of yourself that was hidden from your awareness. Father Mike took a breath and continued. Carl Jung once wrote that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Now, have enough courage and maturity to undertake the inner work needed to release your pre-existing anger and shift your mind to a space of love. That is the goal we all need to aim for, nothing but pure love, because a person filled with love will see love from those around them. I know this is not a quick process. It is an ideal to strive for, and for many, it can take a lifetime to escape anger and fear to learn to love and be compassionate with those around them. In fact, this is the journey of life, finding our weak areas and overcoming them so that we can ultimately find our best selves. This is the only path to take if your goal is to find lasting peace and freedom. There is no other choice. Suddenly, Father Mike stood up and said, "Come on, today is a fun day. All work and no play is not a good way. I found that self-discovery and growth are best achieved in a spirit of joy and adventure. Life is too short to be overly serious. Today we will play tourists. I want to take you to the Colosseum and some other famous sites in Rome, and at noon we'll have a picnic. I even brought some Italian wine for you," he said with a wink. With that, this marvelous man of the cloth walked down the steps of the cathedral, smelling the roses as he went. I quickly followed him. I knew that everything he taught was leading me home. With each passing day, I grew to respect Father Mike more and more. He was a great man. He gave me profound insights into life that I had never heard of and taught me how to elevate my life to the highest level. But more importantly, he was kind. He understood human nature, and I felt he understood me. He knew that as we step further into the light, our dark parts truly emerge, and a part of us tries to resist, clinging to old ways of thinking, feeling, and acting. As we approach love most closely, our greatest fears rise. Father Mike lovingly supported me as I followed his philosophy and moved towards my best life. He reminded me of my greatness and the power that each and every one of us has to shape our destiny at every moment of our lives. During my time with him, I felt truly fortunate. One morning, as we sat having breakfast in a corridor off the left wing of the cathedral, Father Mike said something that surprised me. It was my second week with him, and I felt very happy with all the progress I had made thanks to the ideas and tools he shared with me. A deep inner peace had gradually formed within me, and I began to see all my mundane characteristics and accept them. A dark aspect of me needed to be overcome so that the good part could shine. I felt happier and more fulfilled than ever before, and began to believe that our world was indeed unfolding according to a larger plan that had captivated my interest. I was becoming a steadfast student in life's school of growth and gradually shedding my old ways, like a caterpillar shedding its cocoon as it becomes a butterfly. "You know, Father Mike," I said joyfully, biting into a warm croissant, "this self-improvement thing really works. I always thought it was a waste of time, but I have to admit I truly feel wonderful changes within myself." "The concept of self-improvement is absurd to me," Father Mike replied, gazing at the still sleeping city. "It implies that a person is broken and needs to be fixed, but nothing could be further from the truth, nothing at all. Each of us is perfect at our core. We just need to make an effort to move past the layers to return to that perfect part of ourselves." I thought that as a clergyman and my life coach, all you did was encourage me to transform myself, to live more nobly and exist more wisely, to be a better, kinder, and more compassionate person. "So what's wrong with the concept of self-improvement?" I asked. "That's wrong, that's precisely what's wrong," Father Mike replied with greater conviction, his voice full of passion. "The journey of life is not about self-improvement, Jack. Instead, and this point is extremely important, it is about self-remembrance. Those of us who discover our best lives and express our heart's desires must walk the path of inner discovery, not outer change. The true purpose of life is self-discovery, revealing the best self over the current self, and then perceiving the world through new eyes in the process. But if no one needs to change, then why is the world so bad? Why is there still evil in this world? Why are there still wars, homeless people, and starving children? Why is there still hatred and so little love?" "Slow down, Jack. All I'm saying is that no one needs to change based on who they truly are. That kind of thinking only makes people feel more guilty than they already do. Take you, my young friend, you are already perfect. Really? Yes, so why are you here as my student for self-discovery, not self-improvement? He emphasized. That's why we are here on this planet. It's a very subtle but important distinction. I won't tell you to change or improve or start acting like someone else. I would never do that to you. My entire focus during our time together is to help you reveal your true self, to introduce you to yourself for the first time. This path you are on is not a journey to a distant land. Instead, it leads you back to a place you once knew but forgot, when the people around you pulled you away from your true nature. In reality, this is a journey back home, back to the natural greatness and perfection you possessed since birth. T.S. Eliot made this point very clear when he wrote, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." Those are very meaningful words and very accurate words, Father Mike noted. Life truly is nothing but a journey back home. You know, Jack, the greatness of a person is nothing more than rediscovering the talents they lost in the process of growing up. Living your best life is truly about reclaiming what you have given up. A very clear perspective, I said. Exactly. As a child, you were aware of all your talents. You were innocent and pure. You were incredibly creative and extremely passionate. Your imagination knew no bounds, and your dreams were limitless. You trusted others and had faith in yourself. You didn't have the adult need we have to dissect everything. You expressed your truest nature without fear of retaliation, and you were comfortable letting your good side shine. You lived fully and enjoyed all the simple gifts that life brings to each of us every day. You loved snowflakes and singing spiders and dreaming, a tight hug and a steaming cup of hot chocolate. The world was rich, a place of endless possibilities and a partner always ready for your true success. But then something happened. What happened? I pressed. Well, to put it plainly, you committed a sin. In fact, you committed the most serious sin any human being can commit. I felt uncomfortable. Father Mike looked at me with extreme seriousness and said, "You began to betray living true to your authentic self. You disavowed your true self to buy into the beliefs of the tribe. Your tribe, that is, society, is your tribe. You see, you started to accept others' beliefs about how this world works and the nature of your role in it. You shut down all your beautiful emotions and began to live by reason, spending your life explaining, judging, and worrying, instead of letting go, dancing, and playing. You became a conformist, thinking and acting and controlling yourself in ways not chosen by you, but by those around you, such as your parents, teachers, and friends. And so this process of socialization prevailed, and your own greatness began to be obscured. You did what you were told, acted as you were instructed, and thought the way others taught you to think. And in doing so, you began to live in a small box. Exactly, I added. After you die, there will be plenty of time to lie in a small box. So why live in a box while you're still alive? Brilliant, I replied, understanding the vivid imagery my very wise teacher had just painted. But surely, Father, you're not saying it's wrong for parents to teach their children how to behave and be responsible in life. Or do you have a problem with disciplined teachers and adults who like to set boundaries, right and wrong? Of course, it's very important for parents to be wise leaders and guides for their children. Without discipline and healthy boundaries, a child will be lost. But life is always about balance, and that is one of the most important principles I can teach you. Certainly, a child needs to be taught what constitutes appropriate behavior. And of course, a child needs to be taught about limits. Some limits placed on a child's behavior are very necessary, but any limits imposed on a child's spirit are not. I understand what you mean, Father. May I borrow your childhood experience for a moment? Certainly, Father Mike, I said, standing up from my chair. I bet that after the age of 3 or 4, most of how you controlled yourself was done simply to make your mother or father or your teachers proud of you. Every child needs love and desires approval. So you began to betray yourself and behave in artificial ways for the purpose of making those you loved happy. You believed that the best way to secure their love was to act the way they wanted you to. Instead of singing at the top of your lungs right in the supermarket and letting your true self be revealed to the world, you sang softly so your mother wouldn't feel embarrassed or annoyed by you. And from then on, you always sang softly, spoke cautiously. I replied, feeling immense gratitude for the wisdom I was hearing. Yes, what did Thoreau say? Most men lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with the song still in them. He also said, if a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps it is because he hears a different drummer. Let him step to the music which he hears, however measured or far away. I continued, recalling the words of the great American philosopher whose life I had to study in school. Very good, Father Mike said with his eyes closed, immersed in the knowledge conveyed by the profound words I had just shared. We need to allow all those around us to be their authentic selves. We must, as you suggested, let everyone march to the beat of their own drum and let them feel safe to be themselves around us. That is unconditional love, to be an encourager of everyone's passions, loves, and dreams, even if you don't agree with them. And the powerful words you just shared remind me of an ancient Sanskrit proverb. Spring passes and one remembers one's innocence. Summer passes and one remembers one's exuberance. Autumn passes and one remembers one's reverence. Winter passes and one remembers one's perseverance. And the song I meant to sing remains unsung. Most people pass away with the song of their lives unsung. They don't live the extraordinary life they want. And this is not only a great loss to us, but it is also a great loss to the world. Father Mike sipped his cappuccino, then continued, when we live our best lives, our authentic lives, our true lives, we achieve our greatest selves. And when we express ourselves in this way to the world benefits from what we do. As Paulo Coelho, the author of the extraordinary book, The Alchemist, wrote, the world will be better or worse depending on whether we become better or worse. My God, that's a beautiful way to see it, I replied enthusiastically. Father Mike continued, sadly, most people never realize this. They never realize that their lives mean so much to the world. They must have the courage to become their true selves. And because of that, their once wonderful lives become a guessing game. Too many of us don't live in an authentic way to ourselves. We live the lives of our mothers, our fathers, or even our priests without the courage to live the one life that means something to us. To me, that is a grave sin. I understand what you mean, Father, I replied respectfully. He continued his sermon. Instead of dreaming of becoming an astronaut or a poet or a statesman, I'd be willing to bet that as you grew up, you accepted becoming something your teacher told you was more realistic. Instead of truly being yourself and saying what you really wanted to say in any situation, you started to put on a social mask and think, feel, and act according to what others told you was the appropriate way to think, feel, and act. You began to deny yourself, you became a great pretender. Essentially, you suppressed your self-expression and lost your voice. Exactly, I admitted. When you don't express yourself and your truth, you lose the voice that helps express your true self to the world. And a person who doesn't express themselves is a person without personal freedom. A person who doesn't truly express their nature to the world also becomes purely invisible imagined images from their true selves. You have committed the sin of self-betrayal. I agreed, showing that I clearly understood. Father Mike nodded. And the more you lose the image of your natural greatness and your true self, the more you become someone you are not. And the more you act that way, the more you lose self-respect. Your own worth begins to erode in very profound ways. And with each passing day, the deepest part of you begins to close off and disconnect from your true self. We forget that a great life is an authentic life. As the poet David Whyte said, the soul fails with its own life, rather than succeeding for someone else's life. And we forget this truth. That kills a person, Jack. A part of them begins to die. So why do we do that, and why don't we fix the problem? I asked. Out of fear. First, we are afraid to live differently. We want to fit in with our tribe and be part of the community. In our world, there is great value placed on doing what everyone else does and thinking what everyone else thinks. What will my friends think if I go my own way and don't follow their path? We ask ourselves. What will the neighbors think if little Johnny wants to be a poet instead of a doctor? Our parents will ask themselves. And when we think this way as parents, we play God with our children's lives, a very sad thing for any human being. Instead of trusting our children and creating a safe environment to allow their best selves to flourish, we tell our children what they should do when they grow up so they can impress the neighbors. The truth of the matter is that parents do this out of their own fear. Parents tell their children that they must become doctors or lawyers or marry someone from a good family because they themselves fear they will fail if their children don't become successful according to our society's definition of success. But what is success? To me, success is nothing more than living your life according to your own truth and principles. It is inextricably linked to the values that speak to the very best part within you. Regardless of external societal pressures, success is living your life according to a creative process and realizing what matters most to you, not what matters most to anyone else. That is the way of life of very spiritually influential figures who walked this earth before you. And that is my suggestion to you. Trust me on this. This profound insight alone, if integrated into every single person, would enable you to live an extraordinary life. Father Mike paused, looked up at the sky for a moment as if seeking guidance from heaven, and then continued. The second reason we betray ourselves and adopt the lifestyles of others is because we are afraid of our good side. What do you mean by that, Father? Jack, every single person on this planet has dormant power within them, far greater than we can imagine. If we knew how great and powerful we were, we would truly worship ourselves daily. We would go to the altar of our lives and constantly honor ourselves. We would completely revere ourselves and be the heroes or idols of our own lives. We would not have the fears we have, and we would not limit ourselves the way we do. But sadly, the power we have within ourselves also frightens us. Great talent also comes with great responsibility. At a very deep level within ourselves, we wonder if we can handle the immense potential that exists within us, and we fear the guilt we will feel if we fail to control or waste our natural power. So we deny it. I remarked, and doing so, I suppose, means we also deny our own destiny. Very good, my friend, very good. Father Mike seemed immensely impressed with my engagement in the conversation. We fall into what psychologists call denial. This is a coping mechanism that every human being uses to avoid feeling the pain of truth. What all of us do is create a story, or to use even stronger language, we lie about something, and then we trick our conscious minds into believing it is true, even though our souls know it is a lie. Oh, denial operates at a level just below conscious thought, so we don't even know we are doing it. As you said, we deny our good side, but the tragic truth is that we also deny our bad side. All of us have this hidden part, the dark self I have alluded to these past few days. A part of us that we don't want to acknowledge, because doing so would make us feel ashamed. This is the part of us that always feels envious when others succeed, always seeks to profit when others are in need, always acts aggressively when we should be expressing love, always behaves in a controlling way when we should be behaving in a supportive way, and always feels competitive when we should see that we are all connected. And when one of us wins, we all win. Every single person on this planet has a part that we hide from the world. In our endless quest to appear perfect, we package it in a dark box. In reality, we deny its existence. And in doing so, we deny a part of ourselves. I'm still thinking about that concept quite a lot since I've been with you, I said. Excellent, Jack, but there's more. Because we deny a part of ourselves, we can never live fully. Exercising leadership in your life requires the inner strength to accept every part of yourself, the parts you like and the parts you don't. Once you do that, you will appreciate yourself, which will quickly connect you to your best life. You will become a complete whole again. And to become a complete whole is to become healthy. But very few people do so. It's too easy to deny our imperfections, to present ourselves to the world as perfect, and to wear a perfect mask. And even though deep down we know it's a lie, we still do it. So, does the concept of denial you just spoke of trap us in a lie? Exactly. That is the meaning of denial. Lying to yourself to avoid the pain of admitting the truth. At a very deep level, you can lose your integrity. Surely you know how to speak of someone having high integrity, and you tell yourself that you are a good person with high moral standards. But if you are truly honest with yourself, you might begin to see your denial. You might start to notice any time you tell little lies or cut moral corners. You convince yourself that you are absolutely honest. But are you? And you think no one notices, but someone sees every thought, action, and emotion. And that person is you. All of us have a soul within us that knows what it means to be a noble, kind, and loving person. All of us have a place deep within us that knows this. When you do something wrong, you might try to trick yourself by rationalizing what you did on a conscious level. You might create an entire story that the world lacks integrity and that you are a victim. You might build a case that others are responsible for what they did to you, and you acted harshly towards them to teach them a lesson. But your responsibility is not to be a police officer of this universe. Your job is to act like a leader in your own life by embracing the lessons that the school of growth is teaching you. And doing so will help develop your best and most authentic self. Yes, I said, trying to absorb all of this. Is it fair to say that this battle is one of authenticity? Or, more precisely, it's a battle of integrity? Because when we act in ways that are out of sync with our true selves, we no longer have integrity. Certainly, Jack, there is an extremely powerful concept I call the integrity gap. Simply put, the larger the gap between who you are on the inside, your true self, and how you present yourself on the outside, your social self, the more unhappy you will feel in life. As Ashley Montagu once remarked many years ago, the deepest personal failure that man can suffer consists in the difference between what one is capable of becoming and what one actually becomes. You see, the main reason millions of people in our world today experience the mental discomfort they always carry with them is because of the integrity gap. They are betraying themselves and not allowing their true nature to express itself to the world, and the deepest and best parts of them certainly know this. My mother used to teach me, Jack, who you speak so loudly that I can't hear what you're saying, I said. Your mother was a wise woman, and she was right. All of us must let our lives speak for themselves. Who you are and how you express yourself in life speaks volumes, and you need to be honest with yourself, or it will control you, Father Mike said, and then laughed. Why are you laughing, Father? Because the world operates with supreme intelligence, and the universe's arrangement is so perfect that I can only laugh at the way we, humans, think we control everything. I mean, just observe how this entire world is arranged. Think about it for a minute, he said, his eyes fixed on mine. You have immense potential, and it lies dormant within you. You have certain values that you cherish most. You have certain ways of thinking, feeling, and acting that are part of what makes you unique on this planet. You have your own passions and interests that make you happy, and dreams for your life are deeply coded in your DNA. All these things are aspects of your true self. And when you give up living a life that reflects these aspects of your true self by not expressing yourself to the world, not doing what you love, not living by your most important values, not feeling your emotions, or not speaking your truth, you gradually close the door, your self-worth diminishes, and your soul begins to shrink. You will frequently suffer misfortunes, you will have less energy. Your creativity will decrease, and you will lose passion. So the discomfort I feel is a gift, I said, deducing a profound meaning. You are so intelligent, Father Mike exclaimed, clapping his hands proudly. Exactly. All the dissatisfaction you feel is truly nothing more than your best life, your destiny, knocking at the door of your current life. The pain you feel deep within is your spirit telling you to wake up and get back on track, to become congruent and authentic, and to be your true self. As Hermann Hesse wrote in Demian, every man has but one truly authentic calling to find the way to himself. His task is to discover his own destiny, not an arbitrary one, and live it out wholly and within himself. Everything else is merely possible existence, an attempt to escape, a form of return to the ideas of the masses, conforming to and fearing one's own essential part. The sad thing is that most people don't pay attention to the discomfort, the meaninglessness, the inner dependence that exists within them, the universe's reminder to awaken and discover their best selves. They believe that their unhappiness is natural. So how do I reconcile my outer world with my inner world? I wondered. You need to consciously begin to narrow the integrity gap every day, Jack. By doing so, you will reclaim your true self. And when that happens, greatness will radiate in all directions of your life. Where do I start? First, you need to go deep within and begin the process of self-inquiry. Self-understanding is the starting point for discovering your self-worth. Explore your greatest values, determine how you truly want to live your life, and think about what makes you happy. Clarify the standards you feel you need to live your life to be true to yourself. Then align that with how you appear in the world. If you were truly thinking, acting, and feeling in authentic ways, what would that all look like? What would you no longer tolerate? What actions would you not take? And what types of people would you consciously choose to remove from your life? Those are interesting questions, I remarked. I suggest you write down what you discover on this journey I spoke of on your first day here so that you can form an ongoing dialogue with yourself. Dialogue with yourself is a very important thing to do because it's how you understand who you truly are. Then the next step is to act daily to reveal your true self to the world, filling the integrity gap. Start living your life according to your own standards. Filling the integrity gap, I repeated. Exactly. Be authentic, be real, and be yourself. And when you do that, your self-esteem will flourish, and you will unleash immense levels of self-confidence. You won't even know what's happening because all of this will occur at a very deep subconscious level. But you will begin to see major changes in how you operate as your social self becomes a mirror image for your true self. You will have boundless energy and will find that you are much more creative. You will find that you have joy and deep peace within yourself. Being true to yourself elevates your life to an entirely new level and awakens your best self. From a metaphysical perspective, when you harmonize your outer world with your inner world, the universe will blow winds beneath your wings and carry you to its treasures. Father Mike stood up. Meet me in the Grand Hall tomorrow morning at 7:00. I need to show you something, he said mysteriously. That's enough for today. I've given you a lot to ponder, so I guess you should go back to your room and do some journaling. Write down what you've just learned from me and what you've discovered about yourself. I know this will be very helpful to you. With that, he turned and left me with a mind full of thoughts and a sense of hope I hadn't known in years. Chapter 5: The Stained Glass Window. The level of thinking that brought you to where you are will not get you to where you dream of being. Albert Einstein. There is a sleeping giant in every human being. When that giant awakens, miracles happen. Frederick Faust. Come with me, I want to show you something, Father Mike said as he and I met the next morning. I followed him as he walked to the center of the cathedral's largest hall. He pointed up to the stained glass window, which was an exquisitely magnificent highlight of the entire space. The sun shone through the different colored sections of the window, creating a rainbow that filled the room with a shimmering light. Every single one of us sees the world through our own stained glass window, Jack. Your life can change once you truly understand this. I certainly did. Really? Yes, we see the world not as it is, but as we are, Father Mike remarked. Each of us walks into the world every day and thinks that the way we experience the world before us is the experience of truth. But rather, that is when our arrogance is revealed and our denial appears. Truth, in any situation, is colored by the inner stained glass window within us, which acts as our filter to the world. And just as the glass up there receives the light that comes to it and colors that light, all the beliefs, fears, assumptions, and biases we carry with us will color our experience. We think we all see life through the same eyes, but that is not so. That is a great lie we trick ourselves into believing. Each of us perceives the world through the unique lenses of our own circumstances, which are shaped by our unique life experiences. And since no one on this planet has identical experiences, no one on this planet has identical experiences of any situation. Your life takes on an entirely new meaning when you truly grasp this. This is a very important piece of knowledge I am giving you. That's incredible knowledge. I guess I've never stepped out of my own thinking and asked myself if it accurately reflected the truth, I admitted. Each of us perceives the world through our own filter, which represents the blueprint of our soul. This stained glass window of the soul colors how we perceive the world and what we believe. Leading our lives requires us to realize that how we perceive the world is not necessarily a true reflection of the facts. We don't always see things happening the way we think they are. That's a very bold thought, Father, I remarked. This kind of thinking makes me afraid to believe it's true. It makes me anxious. Excellent, Jack, you are feeling afraid again. That is a natural human reaction that appears when we come to think or do something new in our lives, and fear is expressed as tension. Once you become aware of this natural process, fear will no longer dominate you, and you will overcome it. The best way to release your fear is to feel and experience it. Embrace fear and do not resist it. Just sit with your fear and try to sink into it. When you do that, something magical will happen. Your fear will disappear, but remember that fear is nothing more than a feeling. It is not real. Never run away from your fears. Always run towards them. Where your greatest fears exist is where your greatest growth resides. And since the purpose of human life is to grow, embrace the wonderful opportunity that fear brings. As I have said, everything you fear offers you very fertile ground for self-discovery. But is it truly accurate that everyone and each of us perceives our reality inaccurately? I asked. I'm not saying that all of us perceive the world inaccurately. Sometimes we do, but sometimes what we think is happening truly reflects the facts. My point is simply that to change your life, you must change. And one of the best ways to do that is to understand the simple truth that we perceive the world not as it is in itself, but as we are in ourselves. With that, Father Mike led me back to my room and left me alone. My mind reeled with all I had just absorbed in such a short time. There was so much information to take in. I was in Rome, being mentored by a clergyman who was sharing with me a worldview that could revolutionize every area of my life if I embraced it. I truly felt afraid when I thought about what this peculiar priest said. To live my life according to these new beliefs meant that I had to see the world through entirely new eyes. And very few people I knew in this world had ever lived that way. But as I gazed out at the city with the stars twinkling in Rome's brilliant sky, a peace deeper than anything I had ever known rose within me. And a single word flashed in my mind: faith. Over the past few weeks, I had grown accustomed to a very interesting routine at the cathedral, waking at dawn and meditating with Father Mike for about an hour. This practice was extremely difficult for me at first, but after only a few days, an inner strength began to rise within me, and the practice became easier. I even started to change faster and operate at an entirely new level. I began to de-identify with my thoughts and access a higher level of awareness. Deep within me, I knew that I was becoming a mature person I had never known before. More than ever, I agreed with Father Mike's view that the path all of us are on is not to improve and try to become someone else, such as our heroes. Instead, I deeply felt that this life journey is truly about discovering our true selves. It is a process of remembrance. But I didn't believe this. In fact, I merely knew it. After our early morning meditation, Father Mike and I had a light breakfast of fruit and cereal, then went into the garden behind the cathedral, where he spent many hours explaining and teaching me lessons on how to live a wise and noble life. Sometimes, he expressed his wisdom in the form of sermons, standing next to a beautiful rose bush and speaking with all the passion and enthusiasm that connected with the deepest place in my heart. Other days, he was more relaxed and made me laugh constantly as he revealed his extraordinary knowledge to me in the form of humorous anecdotes. Every evening, I returned to my charming room and opened the windows wide, gazing at the sky and growing with my knowledge. Every day I experienced profound changes in how I perceived the world and in my understanding of the structure of our magnificent universe. I quickly came to understand that each of us has a connection, a series of seemingly random events in our lives. Although most of us never realize this, all the points in our lives are connected, and everything that happens to us happens for a reason. Life truly is a school of growth, and every situation in our lives promotes our personal growth if we consciously seek and then live according to the lesson presented. The lessons in our lives, as I perceived them, have their own extraordinary beauty. Sorrows help us grow and lead us to a better life, while good times show us our full potential and bring us deserved happiness. And I also realized that nothing is truly good or truly bad. Nothing ever existed as such. Chapter 6, Tracing the Roots. How much you contribute to the welfare of others, so much will be your happiness. Carl Reiner. One morning, Father Mike sat with me on a bench in the lush garden behind the cathedral's back door. This was a place where he spent many hours in silent contemplation and prayer. Believe that this universe is a very friendly place, he told me. The world truly wants you to win. Let go of the limited thinking that most of us live under during the best years of our lives, and choose an attitude of curiosity. You will find that if you live this way, a power greater than yourself will lead you to your best life every day. More precisely, you will be led to your true calling. I often wonder what my true task in life is, Father Mike. Deep down, I always knew that each of us has something special that we are here to accomplish in this world, I said. This is a great lesson. The secret to passion is purpose. Once you find your calling, the compelling endeavors you can dedicate your life to, your heart will begin to sing, and you will have more passion, power, and inner peace than you can imagine. Discovering a great dream that you can live your life by will give you immense strength, motivation, and energy. A big dream gives you hope. Always stay focused every day because you will know exactly what you were put on this earth to do. Excellent. One of the main reasons to discover and establish your own vision or a central mission for your life is to focus on your highest priorities. As Edward G. Bulwer-Lytton said, "The man who succeeds above his fellows is the one who early in life clearly discerns his object and habitually directs his powers to its attainment." Even a genius is but a faculty of seeing well, strengthened by a concentration of attention to purpose. He who observes with care and applies with undeviating constancy can become a genius. I've never thought of talent in this way, I mused. It's all about focusing on the highest goals, Jack, Father Mike replied. When you know what matters most in your life, you can choose what you need to do and what you don't need to do. Excellent. And when you find your fundamental calling in life, he continued, no adversity, no matter how daunting, can overcome you. Clearly defining a personal vision for your life is the best and only way to overcome problems and maximize your fulfillment. Leonardo da Vinci also said as much when he remarked, "If you are guided by a star, you can navigate any storm." You see, Jack, the deepest need in the human heart is the need to live for something greater than oneself. All of us have a longing to express ourselves on this earth in a way that makes a difference in the lives of others and connects us to a purpose that transcends the limits of our lives. All of us have the very human addition of wanting to know, at the end of our lives, that we did not live in vain. The moment you find your calling, your main purpose, your destiny, is when you will step into a whole new way of living. You will no longer worry about making money or being famous or climbing the ladder of success, but you will begin to care about fulfilling the mission of creating a new world and making it a more loving place. And that is when the best part of you begins to feel profoundly happy. You will feel better about yourself as a person. You will begin to feel content that your life has meaning. And this is when your life is truly great, truly wonderful. I replied, "Let me explain more clearly now. When you transition from being coerced to living by a commitment to serving others, your life will certainly be extremely successful. How do I find this destiny of mine?" You don't actually find your destiny, Jack. It finds you. Really? Yes. The more you reclaim your true self, the more your destiny will unfold before your eyes. As I told you, my young friend, just keep doing your inner work. That is the most important thing. As the Dutch philosopher Baruch Spinoza said, "Be ourselves and become what we can. That is the only purpose in life." The more you discover your fundamental self and express it to the world, the deeper you will flow into life, and in doing so, your destiny will find you. I express skepticism. Is it that simple? Yes, it is, Father Mike replied. Just be patient and more open. Thomas Merton also made this point clear when he remarked, "We have what we seek. It is there, and if we give it time, it will find us." The more you know your true self, the more you will find that you possess all the wisdom, strength, and ability you have longed for your entire life. You are already the person you always wanted to be. You just need to know it, and when you do, you will be able to access the opportunities meant for you. Just keep going deeper and transforming yourself, and keep trusting and opening up. Father Mike paused for a moment, then continued, "Jack, you have finished everything here. You are one of my best students, but our time together has come to an end. You have been with me for 4 weeks, and the changes I see in you are wonderful. But the best is yet to come. I have only planted seeds in you, and they are just sprouting. I am very honored to have met you, my friend Caleb's son. You will do much for this world and shine, I am sure of it. Be yourself, seek the truth, and always trust." With that, Father Mike embraced me tightly. Then he turned decisively and walked through the garden into the cathedral, which had been his home for so many years. The sun shone brightly, and I stood beside a rose bush, reflecting on the past 4 weeks and what I had experienced. I thought of the words of the American writer Lise Mayer. "Far out in the sunshine are my highest aspirations. I may not reach them, but I can look up and see their beauty, believe in them, and try to follow them." From deep within me, I felt I was truly on my path. Chapter 7, Meeting the Master of the Heart, the Surfer. Within you is a flame waiting to become the lamp of your soul. When this inner fire burns bright, you will feel greatness awaken in your life. Brefford Kinney. The more I live, the more I believe that the waste of life lies in the love we refuse to give, the powers we refuse to use, the selfish caution that risks nothing, and that misses happiness. Mary Conmel. My eyes had never seen such a beautiful sight. I had been to many beaches before, but this one surpassed them all. It looked like a tiny slice of nirvana. And so, when I paid the taxi driver, I told him I had found my way home. "Are you sure about that, my friend?" he asked. "We're miles from the nearest town, and this is the most secluded beach on the island. I can come back for you in a few hours if you want." "Oh, no need, but thank you," I replied. "I have a feeling I'll be fine here. The universe is a very friendly place, you know," I added with a mischievous smile. The driver just stared at me. He shook his head and drove off. I saw no one else, but that was fine. I slowly made my way from the road down to the sand and took off my sandals. The scenery was breathtaking. The ocean reflected a deep blue. The sand was soft and white, and the sun caressed my body, making me feel so peaceful. I sat down, silently thanking all the gifts that had begun to enter my life since my encounter with Caleb, my father, a few weeks ago. After about 20 minutes of leisurely sunbathing, I noticed something moving at the far end of the beach. As I focused more, I could see what appeared to be a person performing some kind of dance on the sand. Their hands clapped, their knees knocked, and their heads swayed. I felt afraid. I was alone here, and I worried for my safety. Then something wonderful happened. The word faith flashed in my mind. I recalled what Father Mike had told me in Rome. Behind every fear, you will discover your destiny. I delved deep within myself and found a new courage, which I had increasingly accessed over the past 4 weeks as I connected with my power. Then I boldly moved towards the figure. As I got closer, I saw him more clearly. He was still moving very strangely, as if in a trance, and he didn't seem to notice that he wasn't the only one on the beach anymore. I approached him, but he continued his dance. Finally, he broke the silence and opened his eyes wide. "Welcome to my beach, Jack. What took you so long?" he asked with a wide, toothy grin. I froze. How could this man know my name? Faith flashed in my mind again. "You know my name?" I asked, surprised and still a little scared. "How?" "Yes, I know your name well. Caleb told me about you. He's a wonderful man. And my friend, he's well worth befriending." "You befriended my father?" I asked, disbelievingly. "Oh, very good, very interesting. Nothing to worry about at all," he said, wiping sweat from his chest. I observed this mysterious figure for a moment as he tilted his face towards the sun. I guessed he was about 45 years old. His skin was bronzed, and his body was almost perfectly conditioned, with rippling muscles beneath soft skin. His eyes were blue, and his hair was sun-bleached blonde. He wore only a single shell necklace and tattered nylon shorts that seemed to have all the colors of the rainbow. "My name is Moe M. Jackson," he said, extending his hand. "Welcome to Hawaii. This is my beach, the best place on this island for surfing, and I have this beach all to myself. The locals say it's haunted, so I never have company, which is great with me," he drew out the words. "I surf here all day, all by myself. It's a perfect activity for me." "You're a surfer?" I asked. "You guessed right, little brother," he replied enthusiastically. "Caleb was too. He was very good at it, just as good as me," he grinned. "What were you just doing? That dance?" "Oh, I was just having a little fun. I love to dance. It keeps me in the flow of life and reminds me not to take everything too seriously." "In the flow of life?" "Certainly," Moe said. "I live every moment of my life. I devote myself to living in a continuous state of bliss. I try to be fully present to everything that happens to me. The past is long gone. So my philosophy is this: I never let my yesterday affect my today." "What about the future?" I asked. "The future isn't real, my friend. It's just an illusion as far as I'm concerned. The only thing I truly focus on is the joy in every minute. I go with the flow and embrace things as they come. I follow my heart, and I love it," he said enthusiastically. "Here, this is for you," he continued, handing me an envelope he pulled from his shorts pocket. "Read what's inside." I pulled out a crumpled piece of paper and carefully read the words written on it. It read, "Let me not forget that I am your treasure, even on ordinary days. Let me not pass you by in my search for some rare and perfect tomorrow. There will be days when I will dig my nails into the earth, or bury my face in my pillow, or stretch out my body, or raise my hands to the heavens and wish for you to return more than ever. Mary Jean Iron." "I guess that's true," I said thoughtfully. Too many of us complain that there's not enough time in life, but we waste so much of the time we have, and we spend our lives chasing this elusive golden goose, only to find that our greatest treasures are the simplest treasures we always had but never knew. You get it, Moe said, nodding in agreement. Most people are always rushing towards this imaginary world that they think will solve all their problems and make them happy. They tell themselves that once I achieve this or that, I will be happy. But I believe that happiness is not a place you go to find, it is an inner state you create. Anyone can be happy. It's available to everyone, and it's available right now. We just need to stop and pay more attention to the treasures that are all around us. So right now, I'm living my life to the fullest. My eyes are wide open, I am awake. I love every moment of this great adventure. Where do you live? I asked curiously. He pointed to a small thatched hut at the edge of the beach, where the coastline jutted out like a finger. There was a small flower garden next to the hut and an old, rusty bicycle leaning against the side. That's my castle, Jack. That's my home. And I love it, he said proudly. That's interesting, I replied, not knowing what to think. More than interesting, I'd say it's perfect. I have nothing to worry about. No one bothers me, and I'm right next to the waves that make my heart sing. I'm in paradise. Welcome to paradise. This will be your home for the next 4 weeks. Sounds great. I know I'm in for something wonderful, I replied with a smile. Everything has been arranged for you, Moe continued. You already know, I'm sure, and I'll be very happy to have your company. I'll teach you all about the second ultimate question. Have I truly loved? I recall, I said. You're right. But right now, Moe, to be honest with you, I need to focus on my inner work more than on romance. I'm going through an inner growth process, so every aspect of my life seems to be changing. My entire stained glass window is transforming, to speak metaphorically. Father Mike taught you that. I know a great man, Moe said honestly. You knew Father Mike too. Of course, he's been my friend for years, even though he's terrified of water, my new friend chuckled. I could never get him near a surfboard, no matter how hard I tried, a waste, he shrugged. By the way, to answer your point, Moe continued, there are many types of love. Carnal love, self-love, family love, and love for life and its wonders. This last type of love is what you and I will focus on, my friend. Our work will be to expand your heart so that you can open yourself to life and its joys. I bet you never dreamed of having a personal love coach, did you? A love coach? I've never heard of such a concept. Yes, I know, Moe said. It sounds a little cheesy, but Caleb wanted it that way. He arranged this life training for you and asked us to be your coaches. He truly wanted to help you, Jack. He truly loved you. But let me continue. I have found a way to live an adventurous and interesting life. I mean, truly adventurous and truly interesting. I am the happiest person I know. Here on this secluded beach, I wake up every morning with profound joy in my heart. I surf. I dance. I paint all morning, sometimes late into the night. I gaze at the stars when I'm sleepy. I write poetry when the sun sets. I feel like the richest person in the world. And the great thing is, I'm really no different from you. You can have what I have if you want it. So, Moe continued, it all happened when I stopped living my life by reason and started to open my heart. That was truly a secret for me. The Swiss psychologist Carl Jung once said this, your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. He who looks outside dreams, he who looks inside awakens. Those are truly beautiful words, I said, feeling a sense of peace and comfort wash over me as I absorbed them. Father, it's wonderful to meet you, Moe M. Jackson. I'm truly looking forward to our time together, I said confidently. Excellent, he said. Jack, I hear you're in a phase of deep transformation. That's great. That's the best place to be in life. I know it can be scary at times, but as long as you keep an open mind, this is the most important time in your life so far. In fact, I bet that after your time with Father Mike, your heart has already begun to open to your own inner wisdom. You're right, I said. I'm gaining insights I've never had before, and I'm not really sure where they're coming from, I remarked, hoping for guidance. You are getting out of your head and delving deeper into your soul, where all the answers for you reside. To live by reason is to play it safe. You try to predict everything. You plan, worry, and feel frustrated with your past, present, and even your future. You spend so much time analyzing what might and will happen that you miss out on living the life you need to live. The ideal way to learn from life is to embrace every moment given to you, and you can't do that if you keep dwelling on your thoughts. Moe paused for a second, then continued. I used to be like you, Jack, living by reason. In fact, I was in the same profession as you, advertising. Yes, advertising. Have you heard of MJ Group International? Of course, it's one of the top 5 advertising agencies in the world, based in Chicago. 23 offices worldwide, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue each year. Can you guess who founded it? Moe asked. You don't have to tell me, I replied. MJ is Moe Jackson, isn't it? Yes, he grinned. Unbelievable, really? I couldn't believe that the surfer I was chatting with had once been one of the most famous marketing minds in the world just a decade ago. His company was at the forefront of many innovative initiatives and was notorious for its ruthless tactics and a win-at-all-costs mindset. MJ Group International was a world-class company, and it was hard to fathom that the incredibly serene man standing before me on this beautiful beach was who he claimed to be. Trust me, it's true, Moe replied. My path to success was very fast. It seemed I had a golden touch when I went into business. I couldn't stop for years, making millions in the process. I had this sixth sense that told me how to move forward. By the age of 40, I had all the material possessions anyone in your world would dream of. A private jet, a house in the Keys, another in Aspen, a couple of fancy Porsches in the garage, and a charming wife. And after all those years spent chasing money, fame, and accolades, guess what I discovered? Tell me, I urged, looking deep into Moe's eyes, which were now filled with sadness and regret. I realized that I still only saw the same person who appeared in the mirror every morning. I still felt the same way I did when I was hungry and unsuccessful. I still saw the same demons and witches that haunted me since childhood. I still had the same limiting beliefs about myself and what I could become. So I understood that no matter how beautiful my outer world appeared, it was what was within that mattered. And if your inner world is chaotic and unhealthy, you will gain nothing from the outer world to make you happy. On the other hand, if your inner world is healthy and complete, the simplest and most basic things in the outer world will fill your heart and soul. The greatest treasures of life are truly inner treasures, my friend. As Emerson said, without a rich heart, wealth is but an ugly beggar. I learned that when I looked inward, I added thoughtfully. It doesn't matter how much we accumulate. Nothing can fill any incompleteness we feel within ourselves. As human beings, all of us have inner voids that need to be filled. Some of us have voids created by parents who didn't care for our emotional needs when we were young. Others have voids created by classmates who lacked compassion and didn't see our true worth. And as we grow into adults, we unconsciously search for other people and things to fill our voids, to complete us. And when we fail, we move on to search for the next solution. It's an endless pursuit, and it leaves us without inner peace. So what's the long-term solution? I asked as Moe and I walked along the beach, feeling a gentle breeze caress my face. Look inward, the answer resonated. Do whatever it takes to complete yourself. Fill your voids, and remember that the gate to fulfillment opens inward, not outward. That's why the first priority of every human being, I would say, is to undertake the inner tasks, the inner work you just spoke of. That's a very interesting perspective, Moe. Yes, looking inward means you identify the things that are preventing you from understanding how truly wonderful you are. For example, false beliefs, wrong assumptions, fears, and personal biases. I interrupted, yes, those things and many others. By dealing with these things very honestly, you can then feel better in the outer world. The cleaner your inner world is, the more beautiful your outer world becomes. It all starts from within. I summarized, yes, Moe replied. And one of the key elements of that inner task is to open your heart. Opening your heart means living with love. Opening to human possibilities, trusting in the perfect unfolding of your life, and living more vibrantly. Start living your life's magic, Jack. Be present to all the wonder around you, and with a little practice, you will master these skills. As Helen Keller said, no pessimist ever discovered the secrets of the stars, or sailed to an uncharted land, or opened a new heaven to the human spirit. Be bolder with your life. That's what worked for me. Opening your heart also means trusting your instincts more often and being open to the wonderful things that are weaving our lives. That's how you welcome surprises and are ready for all the miracles that await you. I don't know if I believe in miracles. I'm more open to everything than before, but believing in miracles isn't easy for me, I admitted. Just then, Moe started to run. Slowly at first, but then he began to sprint. Follow me, he instructed. I also started to run, participating in this experience and trusting that there would be a lesson in it. Moe led the way along the beach for about 15 or 20 minutes, completely silent and focused only on his destination, a sandy hill at the end of the beach. Finally, when he reached his destination, I caught up with him. Sweat streamed down my cheeks, and I struggled to catch my breath. I can see too much Italian food, Moe joked, pointing to the path leading up the hill. Where are we going? I panted. You'll see, he replied. At the top of the hill was a grassy mound. From this vantage point, I could see other islands, ships passing by, and breathtaking coral structures. Look over there, Moe said, pointing to what appeared to be an ancient ruin some distance away. What is it? I asked. Well, Moe replied, fiddling with a seashell in his peculiar necklace. At first glance, it might look like historical ruins or a series of rudimentary walls and pathways. But I'll tell you a very interesting story about what you're looking at. If you could fly above these ruins, created by the ancient inhabitants of Hawaii many years ago, you would discover what recent scientists found when they surveyed this site from helicopters and airplanes. I'm still listening very carefully, I said eagerly. What appeared to be a series of random pathways and walls was actually a very complex and sophisticated network of highways and systems that formed the foundation of a brilliant civilization, when viewed from a higher and more complete perspective. The real key is this, Moe explained. When you look at things from a higher perspective, you can see that things that seem unrelated are, in fact, related. And to me, that is a miracle. You see, a miracle is nothing more than a shift in perspective that allows us to see things in a new way. By climbing to the top of this hill, you can see everything differently than when you were down below. And by continuously opening your heart to seeing your life in new ways, you will eventually see miracles happening. The more open you are, the more you will see that many seemingly unrelated things that have happened throughout your life are part of a larger, interconnected system. This is what I consider a miracle. Then Moe lay down on the ground. In just a few seconds, he was doing push-ups at a very fast pace. Now what are you doing? I asked, surprised. Just staying in shape, he replied. He continued his sermon as sweat beaded on his forehead. Jack, there's so much waiting for you out there, far more than you can imagine. The key is faith. There's that word again. I know I have to believe that everything that has happened to me in the past and will happen to me in the future is part of a perfectly arranged program designed to lead me along the path of destiny and ultimate truth. Don't live by reason, Moe said. You've tried that way of living, and where did it get you? I'm still stuck, even after all these years, I admitted. Perhaps it's time for a new system, to live more from your heart. Love more, and I promise that golden gates opening to a whole new world will welcome you. Once you start living your life fully from the deepest part of you and loving yourself, everything will change for the better. Live your life as a contemplation of loving others, loving yourself, and loving this world. That's what I'm truly presenting. How did you figure that out? What's your story, Moe? All of us have a story, don't we? Well, eventually I decided to give up my life because it was getting more and more out of control. I gave up everything I had and traveled the world with a backpack for a few years. I met interesting people and immersed myself in different cultures. I went to personal growth workshops and spent months living alone in the wilderness. I learned to meditate in India and fell in love with surfing in Australia. As I changed myself, I reached a point where I started to find the answers to life's biggest questions. I began to grow into an entirely new person in many ways. Then, during a visit to this wonderful island, I discovered this beach. That's when I found my home. I felt this was where I belonged, and I've been here ever since. That's wonderful, I thought for a moment, then asked, is it important to be alone to find yourself? No, not at all, Moe replied. In fact, living alone for a long time can be a form of escapism from what needs to be seen. It can almost be a form of distraction from delving into what truly needs to be remedied. When I was in India, I met many monks who I heard had spent the best years of their lives living alone, high up in the mountains with just a loincloth and a bowl of rice. I never thought such people were enlightened. That surprised me. Well, it's easy to be peaceful sitting alone on a mountaintop, doing nothing but contemplating, and it's not difficult to feel happy and completely free from stress when you're by yourself and no one else is around to annoy you and trigger your deepest issues. To me, growth comes from living in the real world. We discover who we are in relation to others. In my experience, it's only when others are around that we truly get to know our authentic selves. I'll give you an analogy. Suppose you put yourself completely alone in a white box, with no windows or doors, just you. Yes, I'm visualizing that, I said with my eyes closed. Good, now do you see what I'm talking about? Without anything else to compare yourself to, you can't know much about yourself, just you alone in the box. I see exactly what you're saying. I need other things in that box for me to compare myself to. Well, I don't know if compare is the right word, but you're on the right track. If I put a surfboard in that box with you, now there's a relationship. You can observe the surfboard and then perceive yourself. Now there's a way for you to receive information about yourself in relation to the surfboard. You might notice that you are taller than the board or smarter or more active. So it's only in relationships that we can come to understand ourselves. That's a great point, I replied. Let's apply that analogy to the monk and the bowl of rice. Up on the mountaintop, the monk has no relationships and thus no real growth and self-discovery. But when we bring him back to the real world, Moe explained, he's in relationships with others. I interjected, he can perceive himself in comparison to others in the world. Exactly, and as he lives in the world, the ups and downs of the world will force him to respond in certain ways. If someone treats him badly, he might get angry. The anger that emerges is nothing but an opportunity for deeper healing. If something frightens him, this is another opportunity to learn something more about himself. And in doing so, his awareness will be raised to a higher level. If a challenge he experiences frustrates him, it will create another vehicle for him to bring it back to himself and find what within him needs strengthening and improvement. Do you see that living in the real world, working, paying bills, and experiencing the human condition is the only way to advance towards enlightenment? Yes, I clearly understand that, but I hope you don't mind me asking this. Why do you live alone? Moe fell silent. After contemplating my question for a moment, he smiled. That's a very good point. I don't know the answer to that question, Jack. All I can say is that I know I am exactly where I want to be. I've lived with this world my entire life, and now my path has led me to this place. My intention is to continue to be here, but our lives will unfold in ways beyond our will. Who knows where I'll be in another year? I'm enjoying where I am right now. I'm only paying attention to the present moment, opening up to all possibilities and potentials. My heart feels happy here. Unless my heart tells me otherwise, this will remain my home.